Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined as always by Matt and Chad. I won't ask how you gentlemen are doing this evening because I think this might be a bit of a salty episode.
Can't imagine why that might be.
But we won't get into that. So we have a varied show tonight because we have some talks about, I don't know what we say, being ethical with like backstage knowledge that and what to share and what not to share. Someone getting it actually all revolves around the same person. But so I think we're gonna trash someone and then turn around and defend them.
We're going to discuss different aspects of dealing with a person.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about. I don't know how deep into it we'll get, but we're gonna talk about JD McDonough's injury, and I think also Alley Catch's injury because I think there's a conversation to be had about these shows giving the wrestlers very limited space around the ring to work with. Though I think JD McDonough is just an idiot for what he did, though, because I mean I watched that spot and I don't know like. I mean, I'm not like great with physics or anything, but I was watching that. I'm like, I don't know if there's a great way to do that move without crashing into the announce table like he did. Because there's just not a lot of space. And I feel like when I watched that clip, the announce table is a lot closer to the ring than it used to be in WWE.
So kind of seemed that way, right?
It seemed surprisingly close. Because I feel like they used to have a... I'm wondering if it's closer because they're trying to get an extra row of seats in.
Maybe. The thing that... If we're starting there, the thing that bugs me about that spot is from the clips that I have seen. So, grain of salt. He doesn't check first. He just goes up and does an assigned moonsault, and then he massively overshoots it because he doesn't go up and then do a moonsault. He goes way high up there for it. And it's just like, as soon as I saw the elevation he got on it and the fact that he was getting as much distance as he was, I was like, this ain't gonna be good.
Because he overshot the guy, too.
Yeah, he overshot Otis. Otis was...
No, it wasn't
like,
Otis. That was one of the Viking house party guys.
Oh, okay. Well, whichever.
It was the artist
in position.
It was a large bearded man.
It was the artist formerly known as Hanson, I believe. Is who it was.
Well, dude was in position for it, but then McDonough overshoots him, and it's just like, look, I know that some folks might look at it and say that it's a double standard. If I watch AEW and somebody does it, I don't say anything. It's like, well,
no, we call him a dumb fucking AEW too.
I don't remember. So, grain of salt. I don't remember seeing someone just blind do one of those. I've seen people check it first, look over their shoulder and do it, that sort of stuff.
No, we're critical.
Just do a blind acai moonsault and go ham for it when you're got a narrow ringside area. It's just
we've been critical
ECW levels of asking for pain.
We were critical of when Orange broke his arm because they overshot him on something, and we've been critical of some of those big dive spots that have gone wrong with AEW.
See, this is kind of people, obviously, because there's a whole now industry grifting and hating on AEW, but people, there was a lot of discourse. The discourse online, like, oh, how unsafe AEW is and everything. And there was a lot of chatter, for example, like when Sammy Guevara did a move and he basically concussed Jeff Hardy, which he got punished for. He actually got suspended for that, even though I don't know. And I remember seeing it, and I don't know that he was necessarily careless enough. I guess maybe slightly, but not maliciously, in my opinion. But
I think it was
whatever. He was punished for it.
He was stupid.
He was sloppy.
It was dumb. I don't remember it well, but I remember it was when I saw it. I was like, oh, that was really dumb.
Yeah. I just looked at the spot because it's on, it's out there, and he did overshoot it. But when he overshot it and kind of landed a little bit on his feet, but the momentum carried him back. And if you watch it quickly, the first time I watched it, I thought like, oh my god, like did he have a cervical injury? Because
Yeah.
he like snapped back and his body hits. But if you actually watch it a few times, you see that it hits him probably like mid. He hits like maybe like mid back and almost into the shoulders, kind of in like the thoracic spine. Which I guess makes sense because he suffered broken ribs and one of them actually punctured a lung, so that's very serious. But
Yeah.
yeah, it looking at it, the announce table looks kind of.
It looked really close.
It looks relatively close. It's trying to gauge because it's tough looking at a picture to gauge.
Well,
But if
and you have to understand, we've watched. I mean, I haven't watched a lot recently, but I've seen thousands of hours of Raw in the current like setups, and you generally have a feel for the announce table should be from a WWE ring, and it just did not feel right when I watched it.
They've usually had a cutout. Like that section of the barricade is a little further back. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
If I had to guess, it looks roughly about 8 feet between the announce table and the ring.
I was thinking 10 feet.
It could be a little more. It's hard to gauge again because I'm looking at one of the Viking house party. Like late. If you were to like sit him like with his feet touching the ring apron, and stretch him out, he's at least probably like 6 feet tall. Like how much more would it be between like the crown of his head to that? And I'm guessing 2 to maybe 4 feet. So yeah, maybe it'd be like 8 to 10 feet, which 10 feet's a good distance. But I guess if you're like no pun intended, because there's a wrestling name Ricochet, but if you're ricocheting off like the ring apron, like that, potentially you could clear that distance quite easily.
I mean, if you're doing a flip and you're his height, say JD McDonough's 5'10", so you're already going 6 feet out to do that. So you're already like cutting it super close to the ring.
Yeah.
And remember last year, was it last year that Kairi Sane busted her face on the announce table because they screwed up?
I don't think it was. No,
I don't remember.
I think she did get like a bad shiner, like she hurt herself. Yeah.
Remember her face? Like people thought she had hurt her eye because like they totally missed and she just kind of face planted into the announce table.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is why, from his point of view, why would you do it there where you have the least amount of space to work with? Why wouldn't you do it where the entrance is, where they can still get you on camera and you have all that extra space for like.
I think if they don't want kind of repeat injuries like this, they should. I understand you want to give wrestlers a certain degree of creative freedom in doing like moves and stuff like that, but you should probably just have a rule where it's like don't do moves of that nature, like dives into the outside, moonsaults, etc. On the side with the ring announce tables like that. They shouldn't do that. It should be at the entrance.
Or the hard cam, or just the hard cam side. Like it's He had 3 options and he picked the worst of the 3 options.
So the thing that strikes me is like guys who are doing dives, they can see where they're going. Like I'm running this way, I see what I'm aiming at. Okay, like you can at least see that. And it just bugs me so much to do something like that totally blind. And look, if you want to be able to have those kinds of spots, fine. But have your production meeting and say, look, guys, if you're wanting to do dives, if you're wanting to do, moonsaults to the outside, something like that, do them on the ramp side. Okay? Just do them over there. Because it just seems to me that there wasn't any thought for it. It's just like, we're right here. All right, I'm going to do this spot now. Here we go. And you see the Viking dude looking up going, oh, hell, because there ain't anything he can do to help. Right? Like, he's trying to be in position. He's trying to help mitigate the landing. But, yeah, he doesn't have any space to go to try and help it. So
I think Ultimo Dragon always did it entrance side, if I'm remembering correctly.
I mean, he would know better than anyone. Like,
Yeah,
the
it's
best
his
way to do it. I
move.
mean, he invented the move.
See, if you go watch Nitro, all of those big dives and that sort of stuff were angled towards the entranceway. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
There's another extra point which is really people aren't really focusing on, but they should, because it's more disturbing. Is that this match didn't stop there? Apparently,
Oh,
it continued,
they've been really hit and miss on
and
those for a while now.
and it should not have, because he was injured. In fact, what I saw some talk afterwards, that, and people posted pictures, I guess maybe people who were sitting in seats near the entranceway where you could actually see people, duck in and out of the entranceway. They posted pictures of, like, he made it past where like you couldn't see him from the cameras anymore and collapsed on the ground, which, now it's like you probably in immense pain because broken ribs and punctured lung show he might have been, or likely was, having breathing issues. Someone on Twitter, and it's just kind of, again, like there's a whole industry now just shitting on AEW and being like extremely disingenuous and unfair to them about stuff. But someone asked Jimmy Corderas, who was a WWE referee for many years, like the better part of 2 decades, I think, and he's part of the whole, like, shitting on AEW all the time. They're like, "Oh, what did you think about it as referee?" And he's like, "Oh, well, the referees there cleared him, medical staff cleared him, so it's fine, basically." And it's like, shouldn't be fine. Like, it's actually a problem, and people in AEW have actually got heat, because a couple times, like remember when Mox got concussed
Mm-hmm.
in the Ray Phoenix match,
And he called it to go home right then.
Yeah, but it didn't happen right away because the ref didn't, like, get it, like, right away. Was that Rich Knox, or was that?
I'm not sure who
Different
the ref for that
But
was.
the ref didn't like immediately pick it up on it, so the match continued for like another minute or two, and people were like, "Oh, this is so, like, irresponsible," whatever, like that. And it's like, here you got Jimmy Corderas, who should know better. It's like, well, playing dumb. It's like, well, the ringside medical staff said it was okay. It's like, yeah, that actually might be a problem. Like,
That
the
is a
ringside
problem.
medical staff should see, like, oh, this guy's actually really hurt, even if they don't think it's like a cervical injury or like a neurological injury, like a concussion.
Yeah.
They should have been like, oh, this guy's, like, not in good shape.
Well,
Maybe let's end this or take him out.
or the announcers needed to play a bigger role, because, like, I would be in that situation, I would be forgiving of the ref, because that's probably the worst spot for a ref to catch someone getting messed up. Because
Yeah, flying to the outside.
your angle's messed up, you might not even be in position to really see it. I really think Cole or someone should have rose more of a stink, because even Cole, like, said something, like, their reaction, but, like, I don't even think I would imagine that medical staff did not look at him at ringside, and I'm guessing the ref missed it, which I think is forgivable, because, like I said, that's a bad spot as a ref. But, like, I don't believe for a second that he got cleared. I think that he just powered through, and there wasn't enough oversight to catch it.
I don't know.
know. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm looking up something.
We know, because we've seen it happen, where AEW medical staff has stopped stuff. They've been like, "Nope, we're done. Nope, 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 nope." And to have someone with there was a, oh hell, where's the line? The the ref for that match, who commented on X, formerly known as Twitter. He said, "I looked in the eyes of a man who wouldn't stop for nothing. The pain, the fire, and fight were all raging inside of him." And it's like, dude, that's not a good, like, there's nothing about this that is a good look. I am pretty well done because I didn't stop when I got hurt, right? Like, I didn't stop. I didn't heal up properly, that sort of stuff. It's like the statement of, I really should have caught that. I should have been more on top of it. But instead, to have this right here, it's like, man, no.
The problem with that mentality from him, and it's what I say, this goes beyond wrestling. This goes to all sports. when people are like, well, they said they're okay to play. I'm like, yeah, you have to treat them like they're addicts. You have to like act like you're smacking the crack pipe out of their hand and like make judgments for them because they're always going to push ahead against their better judgment. And that's why you're there to smack them on the hand and say, no, like you're
Yeah.
not doing this. Like you have to
Look,
be the adult in that situation.
I would 100% rather on my wrestling shows have a doc who stops the match to says this person, I suspected this person was more injured they were letting on than they were letting on. And if they were wrong, they can go, look, I made a call to try and protect somebody's well-being. And I was wrong about it, but I don't apologize for it. It's like, I would way rather have that. Like, 11 times out of 10.
I guess I am a little more critical because this is, of course, we're beat over the heads with how this is the only real wrestling promotion in existence. You know, wrestling used to be just fought in front of chicken wire.
Yeah.
Like behind chicken, like until the WWE came along. But it's like I was looking it up, because not last year, but within the last year, my wife and I went to an independent wrestling show that was they had it in Alexandria, Virginia. It's Virginia Championship Wrestling.
Mhm.
I think I've talked about it on the show before, but
Yeah, you have.
they're usually based. They're based out of Roanoke, and that's kind of like and they have shows in Roanoke and Norfolk, Virginia, and that's kind of far from DC. Like you're looking at like a 3-4 hour drive. So I don't go there, but they've now been here I think like 3 times. I've been to 2 of the shows they've had. In North Virginia, it's in Alexandria. So pretty easy to get to from where I live. They had the last show we went to. It was like a 6-man tag. Early, like 5 minutes into the match, one of the competitors runs towards the ropes and then collapses, grabs his leg. Turns out he actually like injured, probably tore both quads. Like he had like the Kevin Nash injury, like
Yeah.
or Vince McMahon, I guess, but injured it, and he immediately went down, and there was confusion because it's like, oh, is this like you're wrestling, you're trying to be like, oh, is he like faking an injury? Is this like a work, whatever? But the refs like immediately, and the ringside people immediately attended to him, like immediately, and the other wrestlers, to their credit, covered it up like pros. Brad, you would know this, like old Chikara alum, the Boar.
Mm-hmm.
Like total pro, like total veteran. The guy got injured. He immediately like covers it by he starts doing moves and stuff to like some of the other guys, so like massing it. So everyone's just like, oh, like they're distracted now watching this. Meanwhile, people are attending to the guy, the injured worker, and another worker actually like helped him to the back. Like they were on it like that quickly. So it's like if an indie show can do with like 400 people in attendance, maybe can get this right, like how come the biggest promotion in the world kind of really whiffed on this? And I understand like it give the ref some grace.
That's a weird spot for the ref.
The medical staff, like come on.
Yeah, but you see it. You still get one in UFC every now and then where a guy will be knocked out and the guy's like punching him and he starts looking at the ref like, can I stop punching him, please? Like that. I saw that happen in an Apex show this year. He clearly knocked the guy out, and he's like punching him. He's looking at the ref like, can I just please, can I just stop punching him? He's clearly out.
Well, in that case, it's also a question of what kind of view can the ref have in the position they're in. They may not be able to see it as well. Not ideal, but again, this is in the middle of this tag match. All this stuff's going on, and again, the ringside medical. It's like that is their miss. And that's, like you said, that is a problem.
I think you're right about they need to tell the talent not to do those moves on that side because that's just...
Yeah. Just, look, if for no other reason, then doing that over there, you might get the announcers injured. And if the announcers are injured, then that's a whole other thing. So do them over by the ramp where you've got space to move around. AEW intentionally has wider aprons and wider space around the ring for this sort of stuff.
Remember Jay White did that to JR at a New Japan show, and Jason Barnett got like all up in his face about it because he was the co-announcer. I don't remember what they did, but they like knocked JR over and he hurt himself.
Mm. Well, good on Barnett then.
Well, because the thing is too, you're right about that though, because as an announcer, like even sitting right here, like you're wired into shit. Like you can't just get up real easy.
Yeah. Yeah. You if you're sitting there, you got all the stuff in front of you, you got the headset cord is probably not all that long or whatever. Like, it's a pain. It's not a pain. It's not that it's a pain. It's that you're not going to be able to move that quickly. So, for God's sake, have your production meeting saying, hey, first of all, let's not do blind dives anymore. Second of all, do everything on the ramp side. I don't care. Do it on the ramp side. Shut up. Do it on the ramp side. I don't give a shit who you are. Do it on the ramp side. I will slap the taste out of your mouth. Do it on the ramp side.
Because that's even like, if you go back to the old Attitude Era when they would destroy the announce table every show, that was half the reason they took the table apart, was so the announcers could get all their stuff and stay wired in. Like
it gets stuff off there. It doesn't bust the equipment if they land on it, and it gives them time to clear.
Yeah. But,
sorry, I stepped on you a little bit there.
No, I mean, I think that's a valuable reason to do it. But I think just you shouldn't do things that cut down on your margin of error, because that's half the reason people said Alley Catch broke her leg, is because GCW put the guardrail so close to the ring, and there wasn't the space for her for that not to happen.
At their sold out show at the Hammerstein Ball.
Is he still claiming he didn't lose any money on that?
I don't know. That became a running joke for people who haven't seen or heard about the recent GCW show at Hammerstein Ballroom. It was just a mess. Like I mean, Alley Catch got a horrible injury, and
it's horrible.
It wasn't even
it's
yeah.
And I haven't checked recently, but I did check a couple of days after her GoFundMe up, and whose name was, shall we say, no shock to me whatsoever, their name wasn't on the GoFundMe, even though he's a self-righteous prick.
Yeah.
We'll call him one B. Lauderdale, or, oh, wait, no, that's too obvious. We'll call him Brett L.
Well, there we go. That's better.
Yes.
Now, I looked at that because I was like, there ain't no way the usual suspects are letting this get past, and they didn't. But I remember watching clips from that show, and I was like, God, that barricade's real close to the ring, and that stupid-ass, dumbass from the top to the floor air raid crash should not have ever been a spot. I don't care where it is. And then they did that with such a narrow space between the ring and the... What the hell are you thinking? You get up there, you see that, and you're like, listen, don't do this. Like, flip me into the ring or something. This ain't gonna work.
I mean, and just the logistics, too. If you're in a wrestling ring, even with all the space stuff, like, if you have two people catching you, and you're even like a standard-sized guy, and one of them is a woman, don't do it, because you are way more dense than anything she's used to catching, even though Alley Catch has done like a lot of like intergender stuff. But I just don't, like, you're there's a greater chance than normal if you're doing that, like with her, you're gonna hurt her. Like, have some sense.
Yeah, the very first big brawl match I was in, we had somebody go up top to die. It was 5v5 street fight. 9 of us are clustered up just wailing on each other outside, and the guy goes up top. And I see him getting ready to jump, and I go, I don't know what to do here. So I got the hell out of the way. Not trying to make it look bad, not because I didn't want to catch him, but because I told him after the fact. Like, he did the big splash, and it was this big thing. And I walk over and grab him. I said, I didn't do that to screw with you. I didn't know how to do that right. I didn't want anybody to get it hurt. Hit me in the face with this. Right? So he got to wipe all them out and then turn around and blast me with something. Because it was just like, I know there is a way to do it, but I'm not going to just try and figure it out mid-bump, right? So...
Yeah, because even if you catch him, like, what if you roll a guy's ankle behind you?
I mean, there would have been 9 of us all falling at the same time, and if I'm not sure the right way to fall for it, then I don't know... I might hurt myself. I might hurt other people in this. It's like I'm not screwing with that.
Yeah, that's
That was my perspective at the time. Some of the guys were a little put out with me after, but I was like, look, dude, I didn't want to get other people hurt. And then I put him over after the fact. I had him take me out.
you didn't
So
make good on it.
yeah,
I
it's not a.
but like with him claiming, so he's claiming that they made money when people are saying they think he lost a lot because of the overage, which I think UFC UFC I think at one point in like one of their early MSG shows went something like 20 minutes over, and I think they lost 6 figures on like a 20-minute overage. But also the amount of talent he had on the show, like I can't imagine how he made money.
I don't understand. Look, I understand you want it to be like your big show. It's like why did you have like 16 matches or however many it did? It's
I
like
think 14.
it apparently went on. It's like look, you're not AEW, you're not WWE. Well, that's a bad example because WWE has like 4-match cards that also are like 5-hour shows. But
yeah, but if AEW
is,
had a 14-match pay-per-view, I'd be like, why the fuck are there 14 matches on this?
people say that all the time because if he doesn't have 14, it may be like here's like once you factor in like the pre-show, it's like here's a 12-match show, and it's like, do you need to do that? And look, we're in an era where it's like people love more and more wrestling. 8 matches is pretty good, I guess. If you're going to do like an extra hour pre-show, maybe you could push it to 10. But I mean, regardless, you're not one of the big boys. You don't need like 16 matches on your show.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be 5 hours long.
6 and 8. 6 and 8 are the perfect numbers. If it's a 2-hour TV, 6 matches. If it's a pay-per-view, do 8 matches, maybe a 9th match on the pre-show. And when you start getting over that, like it loses all cohesion. And it's too much, in my opinion.
We'd have to ask a friend of the show, other Brad Ryder, because he actually his employment, he knows a little bit about in the entertainment industry and what someone who is running a show in New York might have to pay union workers for overtime, because I think it's like an actual like city.
Yeah, because there were people on X saying that Hammerstein has had to observe the curfew for concerts and stuff. So the curfew wasn't in effect. Because
it was in effect or was not?
No, according to other people on X that seem to know what they're talking about, Hammerstein has abided by the curfew for other shows.
Okay. Because Brett, of course, was claiming like, oh no, that's not true. Like it doesn't, like these rules don't apply like to the Hammerstein or whatever. And it's like, I don't know that. And if it is actually like a city ordinance, then you may not be getting around. Like it's versus what I'm saying. It's like this applies to MSG.
I thought he said it
well known to apply to MSG.
No, he's talking about Brett. He's talking about Brett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember Brad saying that it's like, no, curfew's in effect. That applies. Also, it's a holiday weekend, so it's not time and a half. It's 2.5.
I figured that.
Just like,
I don't. But see, the other thing why I don't believe it was non-union or curfew was not in effect is, like, especially in cities like New York, they would have shaken that venue down years ago.
Yeah.
And it, like,
I mean,
especially in those big cities, like you don't I mean, not where I live, but there's like cons where they've complained about like just the clusterfuck that it is, where like you like they've gotten in trouble like for doing a panel because they moved like a chair or they set their own chair up or something. Like it's a whole thing, and I don't believe for a second that something is a venue as big as Hammerstein would be union. Like I don't believe otherwise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vectron has a good point. They have a FAFO policy about their ordinances, so there's the only Now I'm not buying that it's a place like that being non-union in New York City. No,
And if you,
no.
and I would imagine why the other reason I don't believe him is I feel like if you're GCW, you don't go into Hammerstein expecting to make a profit. You're doing that for the prestige of running Hammerstein and like doing your ECW cosplay. So I don't think they ever went in with the idea of making money, even the first time when they probably did better. So I don't believe for a minute they made money, because and honestly, just in general, why I don't believe him, and it's not even a GCW thing. Like running live events, you do not make a lot of money, especially when you're running like a 14 match show. Like even if you're paying like the no namers like practically nothing, like they had like people like super crazy on the show. He's not working for cheap. Like Matt Cardona isn't taking like a cheap.
No.
No.
Cardona gets that paper is what he does.
Well, even Effie, like I don't know how much he's obviously, to the extent that Brett may offer like deals or contracts, he's obviously like big GCW star, but look, we all know wrestlers lie, but Effie claims like he claims like during the pandemic era, let alone like now where he do shows, that he like basically quit a real job that was paying him like $150K because he makes more money in wrestling. Now, again, wrestlers can lie. I don't know if that's true. That said, like in terms of like indie workers, like he's probably one of the bigger names in indie wrestling that obviously will he's not going to be signed to AEW or WWE. Maybe you could, I don't even know if you could convince like MLW or Billy Pumpkins to sign you, but maybe, I don't know. But point is, like, yeah, he could make money, and Brett may pay him because he's obviously their big star. But so I guess I'm digressing. But the point is, like, he probably is like getting some cash from Brett. He's not getting that's not a hot dog and a handshake.
No, and Effie does have a name, so Effie can probably because I think before Colt did it, when Colt was kind of doing his thing in like the early 10s, I think I saw what his booking fee was, because I think a friend of the show found out once, and he got his flight paid for plus $650 for a date. So
I mean, wasn't Maki Ito on the show too? Like she was
not on this show, like, I don't think.
I thought she was.
I don't think she's on the specific one, and I don't know how much they've. I don't think she was.
I don't know how much they book her for. It could even be like not terribly expensive, because she's probably going to get a lot of people buying merch or autographs or whatever. But she's international, like, so they probably will have paid for her flight over here, and she probably like gets her hotel paid for or whatever. So she's not cheap, even if her actual appearance fee in GCW may have been like negotiated where it's not terrible.
Oh, we got a note Justin, here. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Justin, is saying that Mackie was on the show, which I thought that was the case.
Okay. I didn't remember. There was so many people on that show. God knows how you can remember anyone's on it.
That's the thing. It's like if you have 100 people on the show, if you pay them like $10, you're still gonna like that's $10,000. And now I know it wasn't really 100, but I mean it was a lot of people. So
well, we had that talk
come for $10.
We had the talk where I talked about how I priced out what a show, running a show, and I said I thought I could do a show and maybe break even for like $2,500. And I was
depending on gate.
And I remember I had like priced everything down to run as cheap as possible, and I had only and I had forgotten refs when we talked about that. So I had like 12 talents on the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest, Brad. When it comes to refs, you could probably talk me into doing it.
Yeah. I thought the zoo might loan me a monkey. Be a good gimmick to run until the monkey kills someone, and then then you're screwed.
You probably wouldn't want me to ref, because I'd end up being taller than a lot of folks on the card. That doesn't help anything.
But like
anyway.
I just don't see like with that amount of talent because some of those people are not cheap either. Because like Super Crazy's not. You're probably shelling even if he's giving you like a discount. You're still probably paying him a couple $100.
They brought in Tajiri.
Yeah, and I doubt he. I bet
You
you're
know,
paying
he doesn't.
him a couple grand.
He doesn't live in the United States, as far as I know. So you probably flew him in.
Yeah.
No, because he's working primarily Japan, and has been.
Yeah, I can actually let me actually look this up. Let me look and see how many people were on the show.
I'm gonna guess. Let me guess. Okay, I'm gonna say 40, 42. I'll guess. Do you want to take a guess, Shad? 14 matches.
14 matches.
So you have at least 28. 28's the bare minimum. No, I'm gonna up it. I'm gonna up it to 46, Matt.
Hold on.
This is just for
Remember, there's a pre-show if you're looking at it on Cage Match.
sorry, my brain slipped gears. I'm trying to get back into it. Are you guessing at talent payout or?
No, we're guessing how many workers are on the show, not counting refs.
So
There's
I-
14 matches.
Okay,
So-
okay.
Wait, Shad's gonna guess.
I
Shad's gonna
quick-
guess. I guess 46
Okay.
workers total, Shad.
Let me see. 14 matches, multi-person matches.
Let's do a prices right.
Yeah, I was about to make a joke about that.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not trying to be whatever, but I'm gonna go with the answer to life, universe, and everything. I'm gonna go with 42.
That was my okay. So 46 and 42. So let's see who gets
Yeah.
it.
Your guess is 42.
I'm 46.
Well, okay, so I quickly looked at it, and I could be wrong in terms of like, because I was just like trying to do it, and there is some duplicates. Like Matt Cardona had like 3 matches.
Mhm.
He's-
The longest one seemed to have been 2 minutes long.
And don't forget they had 2
longest-
fake outs for the one match where they had like that meme guy come out for oh shit, who was it? For Joey Janela, they had like 2 fake outs. Oh, Matt died.
We lost Matt, so
He might be back.
look. If Cardona did 3 matches, you know full well he got the bag for it. He's not. Dude's not messing around whenever it comes to getting paid.
Even if he's
like, I
cutting
don't
him a
know.
discount, I think he would still be over $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I got kicked, or I don't know, something happened with my computer. Anyway, I quickly did it. My math could be wrong, but Chad, you did 42, Brad did 46. I counted 41.
Ah!
So you're just for over, but that's insane, guys. And look, I don't know how much tickets were. It's saying 1761 attendance, and
Yeah.
it was on Triller TV. People, I guess, could have bought on Triller TV. They wouldn't have earned any money from me because I actually have like a Triller, what used to be Fight subscription. So I mean, I don't know if they got any. I pay like a flat fee over the year. So I don't know if they actually get money from that, like pennies maybe. But point is, like, how are you making money? 41 people. Some of them, at least a couple of them, probably like flew in. They all gotta get hotels. Like, so you're expecting like half these guys to like just share a room, like 10 to a room.
And that's just talent.
Again,
Yeah.
41. Let's assume that you're paying them $10 each, which no is not remotely the case. 41, then that right there is just $10 each is that'd be $410. No, $100 each. That'd be 4,100.
Yeah.
Like you probably had to. Maybe you could get away with paying. Let me look at some of these people. As an aside, Maki Ito was in the Unification DLC match. They also had Rina Yamashita in there. Let me see. Let me find just a guy. Oh my God, they had El Hijo del Vikingo. You
Oh yeah, he's not cheap.
brought him in. He's not cheap. Come on.
God.
Okay. Look, you had Tom Peastock, aka Baron Corbin.
Okay, so
On there. Oh,
So
Brad's saying, Justin, I think is saying you're right, Chad. My math could be wrong.
Well, he's saying that Ricky Morton was there for Kerry's match, so even if he wasn't in it.
The attendance on Cage Match, which take for what you will, is 1,761. So even if they paid $100 a ticket, you're probably not even breaking even on your talent there.
No. And they also had to pay, besides like ring crew and medical staff, refs.
I'm sure they had some of the talent making $10 put the ring up.
Maybe. But you also had commentary by Dave Prazak, Veda Scott, Jordan Castle, and Brett. But I'm sure, I mean, Veda Scott and Dave Prazak probably, you had to pay them some bucks. Maybe they weren't like, pay me $2,000 to commentary, but you couldn't pay them
I'm
hot
sure,
dog and a handshake.
I mean, I'm sure they made a couple hundred each. I mean, even if Prazak wants to watch the show and he's willing to do commentary as a thing, but I mean, I'm sure Veda doesn't work for free.
No.
I'm sitting here thinking talent, on-screen talent, your crew, your announcers, your rental fee.
Oh my God, Masato Tanaka was on the show.
Oh yeah.
Come on, you have at least you have several people that you have brought in either from Mexico or Japan.
So we could.
So come on.
We could probably say you paid out probably, at a minimum, $20,000 for the talent.
Yeah, there's no way he made. I would bet a lot of money, a substantial amount of money. I'd bet the amount of money it took him to pay the talent.
Yeah.
That he did not make money on this show.
Because even if you're saying you each person paid $100, which that's not what they paid, because they wouldn't, like, if AEW charged $100 a ticket, they wouldn't even draw that. But so let's say he did that. So you're talking about what, like $170,000 to cover everything just on your ticket sales. And when you're talking about building rental, even if you got that on a deal, and like talent, like just ate a huge chunk out of that. And it's New York, so they want their little cut of everything too.
Yep.
Look. And they probably had to pay for the ambulance. So that's what, like, an ambulance isn't cheap. That's probably a couple grand right there.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, back in the day, if this was like, the aughts, a company like Ring of Honor, if they had thrown like a big show like this in the Hammerstein, first off, they wouldn't have had as many matches or as much talent. They wouldn't have had
we know,
but
we know Ring of Honor never made a dime. Like, we know that 100%. Like, after the fact, they never made any money.
In theory, though, if a company like Ring of Honor had done like a big show and brought in like international talent, at least some, not for like every match, but like at 2-3 matches, and they did a longer show, so it's not this many, but not just like here's a 6-match show. Maybe it's like a 10-match show, and some of that had the international talent, and they had to pay a lot of money for talent, all the talent involved. They actually, I mean, you're underselling my argument. It's like, oh, they didn't make money, but I mean, in theory, maybe a show like this, it would be worth the dice roll, because it probably would have been well received, probably would have been like good matches, and people would really talked about it. There would have been buzz about it. They could have probably done decently selling it on videotape after the fact, and it would have gotten hype for the company. People would want to go see the shows in the future. But that's not the show. Like, this is sitting at, I think it's like a 2.6.
Yeah, there's
6.7 on Cage Match. It was horribly. It was panned.
There was some mad,
horrifically.
There was some mad butthurt by GCW cultists about it, even in the reviews of that, because and I mean, we had a couple friends in the Discord, and like, Justin is even a fan of GCW, and he was crapping on it, and you could just tell. Like, they were 2 hours in, and they were like, you could tell they were done with it, and it was like 12:30. Like, why am I still watching this show?
Yeah,
it's I mean, they had, if you look at it, they had some actual talent on the show, and it was like, it seemed way too long, and it seemed dumb. Like it. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, if they come back, I think I have the gimmick they need to go is like we're gonna run a show worse than Heroes of Wrestling. That should be their next. I mean, I don't think that's humanly possible, but I mean, they could try.
For those for folks, if you want to go through our back catalog on Spotify, on iTunes, like we actually have like quite a few episodes that we've done of the show, and we did review Heroes of Wrestling. I forget what episode that was.
I wouldn't recommend listening to that because you can. I think you could hear me contemplating ending my own life on that one.
I think wasn't the Easy Money Julio De Niro match like the first? That was like the first match, and
no, the first match. The first match was oh shit, what was it? It was like the fake Samoan SWAT team versus like Marty Jannetty and like Tommy Rogers or something like that.
Easy Money and Julio De Niro were like right in the middle of the show. So you got right there, and then they gave you just a little bit of hope. And then they went back to laying it into you.
It was Too Cold Scorpio and Julio De Niro, because remember Too Cold Scorpio had that.
That was the only match. That was the only match that was actually like decent. It wasn't even like classic. You forget it like the moment you finish it, but it was decent. Because
I still remember that show because something happened, and I had missed it. And Shad's like, "Why didn't you rewind it?" And I was like, "I'm not rewinding this shit." And he was like, "Fair point."
Mm-hmm.
And
I could not argue.
I will stick by my conclusion that UWF Blackjack Brawl was miles better than that show because there were actually a couple of decent matches, and it was at least humorously bad in a lot of points.
You know that. Yes, that is a fair point. Like the
you could at least laugh at Blackjack Brawl.
Little Tokyo, and I can't remember who he was up against. Had a good match. It was a good little person match.
Steve Williams and Sid was pretty good. Tyler Mane and like Stevie Ray, I think, was the one that was pretty decent.
I was surprised with how not awful that match was.
And the Bees versus Warlord and Hobo number 2 was pretty decent.
The big glaring thing, Snuka Cactus was bad. But the glaring thing was Samson versus the Irish Assassin, because I just about had an aneurysm.
Yeah, but that was my basis for like the worst match I'd ever seen for a long time. But then, oh boy, did that Bushwhackers Iron Sheik Nikolai Volkov match come charging to the rescue on the worst thing I'd ever seen. Because remember, like you could hear Dutch Mantel just give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no.
Oh man, that was wow. That show was ponderously bad.
So what was something else we were going to talk about? Because we got to get out of the ditch here.
Okay, so there's been so we have. I think we're gonna good cop bad cop the next segment. So we're going to trash Britt Baker, and then we're gonna turn around and be nice to Britt Baker.
Here, let's do the good cop part first.
Okay. So there was... Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you set it up.
Okay, so we won't name him. We've talked about him in the previous weeks, but there was some rumor mongering going around online about that she had cheated on Adam Cole. And this led to some call outs, and I think Tony Khan specifically bitched someone out about this.
Yeah, can I add a little more backstory? And I will not name names, but to set us some backstory because it is important. The reason why this became kind of an issue, it isn't just like this kind of salacious gossip type stuff is stuff that look, Shad and Brad and me are, I don't say we're old, but we've been around a while, so like we were around even back in the days of like message boards. Which so was Tony Khan. Like Tony Khan was way back in the day on the Death Valley Driver review message board.
Yeah, he probably called one of us like some racial or sexual slur back in the day. We
he
don't
he
remember.
flamed us at some point.
Yeah.
But back in the day of the message boards, like you would hear all sorts of crazy shit all the time, and sometimes, like, well, if it like Tony Khan is the one who started the infamous DVD VR sleaze thread,
With the best
which who knows if it's
the best story ever, the dildo blender.
the
Wait,
Delta
hang on.
Blendo, which to me in my head, I don't want to hear it's not true. It's canon in my in my opinion.
Did either of you watch the Hey EW with the Rock and Roll Express?
No, I haven't seen
No.
that one.
Because okay,
Did he
I'm going to
ask him
spoil
about
this
it?
for you. Because RJ City said, next question. What's your opinion on glass tables?
Did they
And I
warp?
fell
Did they-
out of my chair. Like, Ricky's sitting there for a second going, glass table? And then it hits, and Ricky looks at Robert and laughs at him and, like, elbows him. And Robert doesn't say anything. And RJ's just like, not a fan? Heard you were. Next question.
You know, my favorite of that.
I laughed myself saying,
My favorite of that one is it was.
Right.
I don't remember who he was with. It was Raven with someone, and they were going through the rumors
I
on
actually
Raven and
I
Hong
just
Kong.
asked this. I just asked it. Raven and Hong Kong. Good Brad.
that because that one came up, and he's like, I don't remember which one left. Was it Morton or Gibson that like supposedly left?
It was supposed to be Morton left.
And
Yeah.
and Raven reads, he's like, nah, I don't think Morton would leave, and he just goes to the next one.
No, it was Raven. When Raven, the general story itself that Ricky had left and Robert had stayed. Raven just like was like, yeah, I think that story is plausible. And Honky is the one who said like, I don't think Ricky would have left. And it's like, oh my god. But anyway, my point is saying like you
Sylvester
hear all sorts of
Stallone
crazy
is
shit.
also a fan of glass tables, I've heard.
Oh, okay. I think I've actually heard that too. But
I think Opie and
Um,
Anthony did a segment on it way back in the day with Anthony doing an impression.
Mm.
Back in
Ugh.
the NEW days.
but basically, you would hear all sorts of crazy stuff on message boards, and maybe it was actually like real or it's stuff that people had heard. Who knows? But you either believed it or not, and it's just like, all right, it's gossip wandering on a message board. You know,
Yeah.
some people did have inside information because maybe they
Yeah.
talked to people, whatever. Other people, it's just like you're like a kid, you're like a 14-year-old kid sitting in like your mom's basement, probably like you.
It got more
you
implausible.
signing
as
on the internet.
It got more implausible
Yeah.
as the thread went on, and I think that is where the infamous Macho Man Stephanie McMahon rumor started. I'm pretty sure.
It was older than that, but it was kind of pulled back to prominence there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that might have been where it started.
Point is that you'd hear that kind of crap on like message boards back in the day. So kind of the rumors and everything that this person was kind of sharing, which ostensibly is actually allegedly stuff he's heard from his connections in the industry. And I mean actual wrestlers or other people who work for major one or both or either work for or have worked for the two major companies
Yeah, and
have shared with them.
And can we just put a disclaimer on this? Like, if they did get it from the source of like wrestlers, the only people, well, wrestlers are pretty much the equivalent of teenage girls when it comes to being gossipy. So I would take anything a wrestler tells you with a grain of salt, like on their best day.
What was that
Remember,
line
like-
from Big Damo's tweet, Matt?
Oh, some wrestlers are just fucking dumb. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
that one.
Well, that's the ironic part about that is that he said that and then he was like doing spots on.
He was being very dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing spots on a certain villain's podcast or show. But anyway, like he allegedly this is stuff that's being shared with him, which as Brad just said, like it's take it with a grain of salt because you remember the infamous line that Brian Daniels has said about Cody Rhodes. It's like, oh, Cody taught me how to lie. He told me how fun lying is, and it's like, yeah, that's a pro wrestler. Like they're probably always working someone, so they're telling
Yeah.
you something that may or
And-
may not be true.
I've seen it happen in some other communities before, just to throw this out here. But sometimes if they think you're a fucking snitch, they'll feed you bullshit to see if it gets out, to know that
Yeah.
you're like they can't trust you.
Yeah.
The bigger problem is that this individual was trying to kind of start off trying to work his way into being, to the extent that there's being respectable in terms of like wrestling media or journalism.
Yeah.
He was trying to like dip his toe into those waters and was having some degree of success there. And in the meantime, he had created this like pay to get in Discord server that he had to pay like a minimum of $5 to get in which he would share these like gossipy stories. And I've heard it's actually worse. It's like, if you pay me like $20 on Patreon or something, like I'll invite you to like a space or a watch along, and you can watch me and my buddies like watch a pay-per-view and talk about it. Which I heard that itself was like its own weird, potentially grifting thing, because people were complaining. It's like, I paid you $20 to have like a space, and it's just you and your buddy talking, and you won't let anyone else talk. So it's like, yeah. At the same time, it's like, well, you like, you got conned yourself, dude. Like, you paid dude $20 to watch wrestling with them. And, you know, I mean, but anyway, like, it's kind of, if you're trying to be respectable, this is my thing with it. If you're trying to be respectable, you can't also then be like, well, pay me $5 and I'll invite you into the back room, meaning this Discord server, and I'll give you all the chisme, as they say in the Latin world, about you know, what's going on with the people's personal lives. And it's not even just like, pay $5. It's like, you pay $5 and it's like, oh, so I heard that Wardlow is trying to get out of his contract and go to sign with the WWE. It's like, that's the equivalent of like back in the day, like the hotlines you'd call into. It's like
909-9900.
Yeah.
Mean Gene, Lee Marshall is going to tell you about who might jump between the companies. It's not that. It was like, hey, pay me $5 and I'll tell you, like, you know, which AEW like female wrestler is, like, you know, sucking somebody's dick. Like, and it's hard to be graphic like that, but I mean, it's like that's like salacious gossip, and it's like, I shouldn't care about that. I should care about the Wardlow thing, or like, oh, when's Ricky Stark's contract coming up? I actually know the date. Like, you want to hear it like that? Okay, maybe, all right, maybe that's relevant, but not, you know, is Britt Baker cheating on Adam Cole with someone? Like, I don't know. I shouldn't care about that.
Who cares?
That's not my
it's not
business.
our business.
That doesn't have anything to do with what we see on TV. It literally has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Number one, it does that it sounds salacious just for the sake of making up something salacious to tell people. Number two, I don't care. And then number three, it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm watching. I'm not watching, you know, TMZ. I'm watching my wrestling show. I want to know, is this a good wrestling show? The reasons that I don't like Britt Baker don't have a damn thing to do.
Well, and
the last time I would.
There's a lot of context too, because like when people are like, "Well, Jericho womanizes on the road," I'm like, I don't care. I don't know what the bounds of his relationship are. He might be acting within the agreed upon standards of their relationship, because I wouldn't be shocked if Jericho had that kind of setup or whatever. So like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah. What are you gonna say, Matt?
The last time that perhaps someone's personal life may have actually mattered was like 15, 20 years ago, when it was like the Matt Hardy Edge Lita situation.
I thought you were gonna say when Benoit like murdered his family, but
well, that's I wouldn't equate that as like the real life details of people's lives, like, obviously, but I mean in terms of like, oh, someone cheated on someone else with some, like, the last time that actually mattered probably was that, because that got that affected actual like working relationships behind the scenes, and it turned it into a storyline, so it kind of did. But...
And neither here nor there, but like, I also don't really care when, like, the same week this is going on, there's like there's like an article about how Neil Gaiman's like chasing his babysitters around the house to do horrible things to them, and all the like sick. I haven't even made it through that article because it's just. But I mean, like, okay, so she cheated on him. Like, did you see what Neil Gaiman's doing?
Yeah. The Adam Cole Britt Baker breakup seems to have been amicable. Neither one of them are talking trash on each other or anything like that. So, you know what? They may have just been like, we're just not doing this, okay? You know, we tried, we were together for a while, and this just isn't working anymore. Okay, you know what? Fine. That's all I'm just going to assume that's the case.
I don't
Fine.
even need to know that. I don't even need to know that. That's not my business.
I don't need to know that. I'm just assuming that's what it was. Okay? I'm just assuming that was the case. They both are still working in the same place, though. There's got to be some kind of amicable thing going on. I'm done. I'm out. You know, that's all I need. Though that doesn't have any reason or any bearing on why I don't like Britt Baker.
Well, that's a problem I have though. With it though, is like there's a lot of reasons I don't like Britt Baker. Like, please, like, stop. It's when like a president's in office, and there's a lot of reasons to have disagreements with them, and people run around screaming about like stuff that didn't actually happen, and then they're like, "Well, you're just defending them." Like, no, I want you to criticize them for things they actually do, not like some made up thing that like you heard from someone that heard that was misreported and like later like corrected.
Yeah, and some degree people don't understand that. It's like if let's say there's 20 things over here that are legitimately like concerning, and you're focusing on the 5 things that are clearly like made up nonsense, and doing that you're discrediting those of us who are concerned about the 20 things, because people will point to your 5 things that are nonsense and be like, look at them, all they're concerned about is nonsense. And it's like, well, actually I'm concerned about these 20 things. You're talking about nonsense, but
or you're drawing attention to those things, and people are like obsessing over that, and you're actually giving them like cover for the wrong things they're doing.
Yeah, so it's not helpful. As I tell my children all the time, sometimes when they're doing naughty things, it's like, you're not being helpful. You're not being helpful. Like, you're not helping this situation.
And this has happened a couple times with her. And, like, I don't like her, and she obviously has a reputation backstage, but she really does get unfairly dragged sometimes for, like, shit that, like, doesn't matter, like, she had nothing to do with. Like, remember when Lufisto did that bullshit because she was... and she threw that out there in such a way to make everyone assume it was Britt Baker, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that it happened. I don't remember much beyond that,
but she kind of did it in such a way to make you think it was Britt Baker at first, and then it wasn't.
Oh, go ahead, Chad.
No, go ahead, get your thought out.
I will say the reasons I don't care for Britt Baker is, one, I think that I like in-ring work. So I think her in-ring work is not on par. It's never really kind of been.
She had about a year run where I thought she was doing a good job. That year she was the champion, I thought she had a good run. But generally,
character work was great for the most part. I thought in-ring for the most part not great. Did have that like year where she was pretty good. But and she's also had injuries, so maybe that isn't entirely fair. But I've
argued with her that she doesn't have. This is just my opinion. I don't think she has like an awesome aptitude for it. So like, it's something she has to constantly work at. It's not something she can like take 3 weeks off and just step right back into. Like, it's something she has to like constantly do, or she instantly starts like to lose her skills with it.
I don't know what her background is, so I don't know if she was like an athlete that there is like an actual like athleticism that she can kind of play off. But she was never like the strongest in ring, but now the AEW women's division has reached a level where even like
the floor is a lot higher than it used to be.
Floor's a lot higher. The ceiling is way higher than she can even hope to reach at this point.
Because she went from being kind of like top half, even at her worst, to like she's at her best, she's mid now.
Yeah. But she's like has been over and pushed as a big star for so long that it's like you can't just have her like necessarily be like in a lower card situation.
I would argue her character hasn't evolved either. Like, I think that's another big issue with her. Is her
No,
character?
Her character has regressed.
Yeah,
it has regressed. That's another point that I don't like about her, in that it has regressed, and I mean, I think it's higher upside, and I like him more. But MJF kind of falls in the same thing, where it's like you fall back in the same tropes, where it's like, let me just play the same character and gimmick, trashing people as a heel. He often grabs, like what people have said, and I agree, is the lowest hanging fruit to insult people, whatever. And
his crutches are
old.
really, yeah. I feel like,
yeah, the crutches become like so obvious that it's almost like you roll your eyes. It's like, oh, okay. Like
it's like you can call his interview. He's going to start with this. He's going to start talking slowly. He's going to have pauses. It's going to start ramping up. Okay, now here's the part where he's going to start shouting. Okay, let's get something vulgar in there. There it is. Okay.
Yeah,
he's like a stand-up.
We know.
He's like a stand-up comic that you've seen 5 times and he hasn't updated his set in 10 years, and you're just like, I can't. Yeah, I can't anymore. Please.
He just plays the hits, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But we know that he's frustrating in the sense that we know that he's capable of more. And I think he is at least somewhat self-aware of that, because remember, if you recall this exchange, or saw this exchange, but when it was rumored before he did, it was rumored that Ricochet was going to come to AEW. He, like, someone on Twitter did like this fake thing where it's like Ricochet's coming in and like, oh, he's going to be in a feud with MJF, and so they did a fake MJF promo on Ricochet. And the problem, and this kind of goes to like, MJF can be predictable, and he falls into the same crutches and tropes. They did it. This person like wrote this promo that allegedly, you know, this is what MJF would say to Ricochet, and it rang true. Like, I read it and I like chuckled because I'm like, this is exactly what he probably would do. And MJF actually like quote tweeted that, and it was like taking notes, like Ella.
Yeah,
it's like
oh, you're doing my job for me.
Yeah, it's like he might be self-aware. But point is, Britt Baker is like MJF in the sense that she kind of has the same crutches and falls in the same tropes. But he, to me, is more flexible, and we know he can reach higher levels. That's why we can be frustrated with him, because it's like, why are you still reaching for the same crutches when I know you can do better than that?
My problem with MJF is you'll get a stretch and I'll start doing different stuff, like, okay, he's finally grown out, and then he just goes right back into it. He's like, God damn it.
It's what he does is he has a wheelhouse he goes back to when he, like, the American champion thing, that mini feud he did with Ospreay. I thought that was great, and that was different. And obviously the whole thing is set up to have Ospreay beat him at Wembley. You know what? Perfect. Great. Love it. The difference between MJF and Britt Baker is that MJF's formula, even if we can call the beats on it, it still effectively gets heat.
Yeah.
I think part of Britt's problem too is a wrestling fan problem, in that wrestling fans let people like her off too easy, because all you have to do is the little DMD thing and they pop for you. And like, wrestling fans are just too like, they're too easy to, I mean, it's like this and other things, like you can just jangle the keys at them and they'll pop for you, which makes people like her like lazy.
It's fun to do it's fun to do a big group chant thing. That's fun to do. But go ahead, Matt.
Well, the point I was making, the problem that I have with her, and I digress into the whole story about how she falls in the same crutches too, but the crutches that she does, or that it really bothers me, is that, and I go back to, I know he's gone crazy kind of, and he makes a lot of offensive comments for no good reason other than, you know, the toxic clapping seals that he has cultivated his fan base. But they love that sort of nonsense. But Jim Cornette did like a shoot interview like 20 years ago that I listened to, and I still go back to, where it wasn't just like, here's some like stories from my career. It was like, a shoot interview of him like explaining the business and things about it. And one of the things he said, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, probably more than once, is that you should, if you're cutting a promo, especially if you're a heel, you're cutting a promo, you should always build up your opponent. Because if you're booked to beat your opponent, then it's like, oh, you built them up. It's like you beat them. It's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And if you lose the opponent, it's like, well, you built them up too. It's like if you lost to them, well, okay, you built them up. You show that they're actually someone like important to beat.
Yeah.
So like they could actually beat you. So even if you're like a heel, you're like, well, whatever. Like you still need to present them as somebody, because if they beat you, then it's like, okay, well, you couldn't overcome that adversity because this guy's like so awesome, whatever. It's simple logic. It's like it's not brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, it's simple, but it works. And I've seen it many times. I've seen it in AEW. Like I remember like years, like Mox once had a match with Sammy Guevara, and it's like, do you think that Sammy Guevara is going to beat him? Like, no, like he didn't. But Mox gave an interview, and it's like, oh, he hyped up Sammy Guevara's points, where it's like Sammy Guevara is like, he's younger than me, he's faster, like whatever, like he could maybe beat me, but I'm gonna beat him because, you know, I'm the best. And it's like he built him up so that even if you did win, it's like, okay, you won because you have like that bravado and like you're like tough and everything like that, but you still built him up. It's like he was a challenge to me. Like these guys got all these awesome attributes.
So
that's not
there
what
was. I'm sorry. I'm trying to agree with you. With you, Matt. There is a passage in Chris Jericho's first book where he was doing a promo to hype a match with Bulldog Bob Brown, and he called him a fat old man. He's like, I'm younger than you, faster than you, stronger than you, you're a fat old man, I'm going to beat you. And he thought it was a good promo. And Bob Brown walks up to him in the locker room and says, what the hell was that? And he's like, Jericho's confused. He goes, yeah, I'm old. I'm fat. And if I beat you next week, and I will beat you next week, you just lost to an old fat man. What's that say about you? Because you would have, to use another Cornette example, what would he do to run down somebody? It's, you know, if talking about the rock and roll, it's like, oh, well, you might notice the rock and roll aren't here this week because they heard the story about the home for unwed mothers wasn't doing well, so they went to go make more unwed mothers. It's like, it don't have a damn thing to do with what's going on in the ring. It's talking trash on them, but it does not impugn who they are in the ring.
Actually, there's a good promo in '85 he cut that I remember from TV, because it's when they were just starting the Midnight's Rock and Rolls, and the announcers asked him about the double drop kick. He's like, well, we don't have an answer for that, but you can bet we'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
I do think, now the one thing I'll say, it is okay to tear someone down like that if you're putting a lampshade on the fact that they're about to beat you. Like if you have like an obvious jobber that's going to beat you because of something, like tearing them down so you get your immediate comeuppance is fine in my opinion, but that is a specific circumstance that it should only be adhered to if you're going to immediately get yours.
It's my 90% rule.
Yeah, if you talk about how like, oh, I'm so clearly gonna beat this guy's a chump, whatever like that, and then they just, you know, pants the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, yeah, you were just full of yourself and you got what was coming to you for.
I'll use a great example of
arrogant.
I'll use a great example of when it worked. So NWO era. Eric Bischoff's cutting this promo. He's like, I wish Sting was right here because I'd slap the paint right off his face, and Sting comes out of the ring and just lays him right out. And like the second Bischoff sees him, he screams like in terror and then just gets destroyed.
Here, recent example, Jericho and Action Andretti. Jericho's like, I haven't been doing well, so I'm going to get my groove back by beating up on this nobody, and Andretti beats him. Right? Like, sure. But those are the exceptions. And the thing I think you were leading into, Matt, is that, number one, Baker has a real problem talking just absolute mad trash about whoever she's going to be in the ring with, tearing them down.
No, the problem, though, is where she really goes wrong, though, is like the crossfire where she'll just hit some random woman she's not in a feud with and probably might not even face for 6 months. And she
That is my go-to. You wanted my go-to example on why I don't like... Well, now I've got two. Why I don't like Britt Baker. Britt and Thunder Rosa had finished their feud. Rosa had beaten her, all this sort of stuff. And this is not even talking about the mean girling backstage stuff. But, you know, Rosa and Marina Shafir had a match that didn't go well. And we talked about it on here back when it happened. It was not sandbagging. It was mistiming. One of them was just mistiming, and that's just what happens. And then another one was Shafir didn't really give the right cue for the move. So whenever she went for it, Rosa was expecting something else. You know what? And everyone's like, "Oh, Thunder Rosa sandbagging Marina Shafir." Shafir and Rosa had that squashed next week,
Yeah.
right? Like they had that settled.
I think
The
some of
week
that.
after that, hang on, Brad, I'm on a roll. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
You're right.
The week after that, Britt Baker's cutting a promo on Ruby Soho, who, by the way, she beat clean as a sheet 3 times, and Soho never got a win back on. And it right there at the end of it, she's like, "Oh, and by the way, Rosa," and she holds up a sandbag and goes, "I know you're having some problems too," and throws it down. I'm like, "Bitch, what did you just do? That didn't have a damn thing to do with you, and you're inserting into it." And then the other thing is they set up the last time we saw her on TV, which was apparently the last straw. She won the match against whoever she had the match with, and Serena Deeb comes out to kick off the feud with him, right? Serena Deeb comes out to kick off the feud, and Baker leans on the ropes and looks at her and goes, "No one cares," and then looks at the camera and goes, "Nobody cares." And it's just like, well, just kill the damn feud right there before it ever starts.
Yeah.
You've highlighted the two things the last two things that I don't like about Britt Baker is one is that in that my whole Cornette story is that basically, like she doesn't build people up in the way that you're supposed to build people up. She just trashes them, and then it's like you're not highlighting their positive attributes, even like from a heel perspective, like, oh, I'm an arrogant heel, like I think I can beat them. Where you're mentioning like, taking Serena Deeb, it's like, yeah, Serena Deeb's like a great worker, like she's really tough, but it's like I'm better than her. She's not gonna beat me. Like I can still beat her, even though she's great. Like it's like, okay, you're hyping her up. You're doing the arrogant heel thing. It's like, oh, I can beat them. No, it's just like, oh, no one cares about you. No one cares about this. And it's like, then why should I care about it?
Get the hell off
Like,
my TV.
Yeah, why should I care? And it's not as if like this is the one time she's done it. She like routinely
No.
would do that with her opponents in AEW. It's like trash them, but not actually build them up in the trashing.
Yeah,
So
she'd bury them.
that's always bothered me. The third thing was I actually wanted to mention was the Thunder Rosa thing because people. I don't know what people think, but like Thunder Rosa's talked about it, like that whole thing and the hate that she got for that, and the opinion that she was sandbagging and everything like that. That coupled with the fact that she actually did have a real life back injury that kept her like out of wrestling for like probably a year, better part of a year.
Damn near.
She wasn't going to come back. Like she said, like there were times I was legitimately suicidal because of all that, and it's like. This is the woman's like career. Like she actually is serious about this. She's kind of like put it on hold for now, but she owned and operated, her and her husband, like an actual indie wrestling promotion in San Antonio, Texas called Mission Pro.
Mission Pro, that's what it was.
Yeah, so it's not just like I consider AEW just a paycheck, whatever. Like she actually loves and cares about wrestling to the point she had her own indie wrestling promotion.
Well, I think she was working with
she
some
cares
of the
about wrestling.
women
So
in like back a couple years ago with AEW too. Like I think she was working with
she
like
was
Ty Conti and like some of them.
yeah. Some of the women there, like at least one person has actually even signed with NXT after the fact. The Bailey superfan Izzy, she actually was working on that. Like she cares about it. Mission Pro is, to my knowledge, it's I think predominantly a women's.
It's a women's only
promotion.
I think they might run like a guy match like every once in a while, like maybe to get a couple extra feet in. But
she has a son who I think might be her stepson. But he's kind of, I don't know if he still does it, but he was working in doing some wrestling matches, and he may have had a match there, or it may have been like in a Texas indie, because she's kind of posted that, but it's been a while since she did that, so I don't know if he he's still doing it or not. He's young. Like I remember when she was posting matches, he was like 16 years old or something. So
Yeah.
it could be if he is still involved, he could. I mean, at this point, he'd probably be in college, so he may be taking a break for college or not. I don't know. But I mean, she cares about wrestling. So the fact that she's like, I was legitimately suicidal about all this. It's like that's not nothing. So
I really I have a lot. Well, I really hate the IWC now, but like the stuff around botches like really pisses me off because the hate mob they always go after people for things that weren't like they go after the things they shouldn't, and then they forgive the things they forgive the things they shouldn't forgive. Like there was one where it was alpha female and someone, and they fucked up the timing on something, and alpha female just dropped her. Like not unsafely dropped her, she just let her go so she could control her fall.
Yeah.
And everyone online like jumped on her for that. And it's like, no, she did the right thing. She knew she couldn't do it right, so she gave her
a safe out.
Yeah. But my thing is with the sandbagging is like, well, one, you don't know. A lot of those people haven't worked, but like putting myself in her shoes. Let's say like Shad and I are wrestling. And let's say Shad was having an off night or something. And and a couple things had gone wrong. And let's say Shad wanted to do something that was going to put me on my head. And then like after those couple, he goes for it. I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, sorry. Like, this is not the night to do that. Like, that's not sandbagging. That's kind of just like, and I think even like Shad might be mad in the moment. But if I said after the match, like, look, you just spooked me. I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
Like,
I never got mad at somebody for not wanting to do a spot. It's like, hey, I'd want to do this, and they're like, I'd really rather not. It's like, oh, okay, won't do that then. The other thing, the other Baker thing that irritates that adds fuel to the fire. We'll put it that way. Right after, first of all, this is what I was going to say. She had such a bad match with Mercedes Moné that Moné flat out said at the post-media scrum, yeah, I'm disappointed with how that went. It's like, how the hell do you pull that off with someone like her? But
so, in fairness, I guess, to Britt, like, she had been out for a long time with an injury, and then she came back and did that. And so if she'd been out, there's a lot of ring rust. I mean, I guess the excuse is... Well, I guess making an excuse for her. It's like maybe it really is entirely her fault. Like maybe Tony Khan should not have booked that.
She looked like there were a couple of the botches I saw. Like the one people were saying she sandbagged her. It was like a vertical suplex, and Britt tried to go up for it, and she just did not clear. Like she got stuck She got stuck where she was like 75% of the way there and couldn't do it. I think it goes back to my aptitude thing. I just don't. I think she needs to like, she can't come in cold. Like she's gotta.
There were some spots that could have been sandbags, and some of them could have just been bad timing or not being able to do it. But the point the one I was initially angling for, was she comes back, and she starts mean girling on something having to do with Alicia Tout, MJF's fiance.
Because she was all pissy because MJF and Ospreay worked that hour-long match that drew a good rating.
And so MJF gets clearance because that was very distinctly pointed out in the reports. Got clearance to go in there and say, what the hell? And this results in a shouting match wherein MJF got some kind of stern warning, and Baker got suspended. It's like, look, if we are post whatever era you want to say, right? Suspensions and that sort of stuff, those are established things now. And if she got suspended and MJF didn't, you could say, well, that's favoritism but it's like TK liked Baker anyway. Like, she was starting off on a favorable foot, and to do something and have that kind of imbalanced response.
Well, remember,
there's some shit going on.
She was bullying. She was bullying Will Ospreay too, who is It's not a secret. Like, I'm not saying anything out of hand here, but she was pretty much bullying a very autistic man who doesn't do well with social cues.
Yeah. And it's like, what kind of fights are you picking here?
I don't. So there a lot of stuff been made about that, and he has said that he is, and I'm not challenging that. But I know in terms of like someone being neurodivergent, he has also said he has like ADHD, and to me, and I've actually dealt with in my career over the course of like 20 years, like I've actually dealt with people who have been ADHD and autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, he said that he has ADHD or attention issues. And to me, as someone who has worked or dealt with neurodivergent people, both autistic and ADHD, he seems more on the ADHD spectrum to
I have,
me than autistic.
yeah,
He's also really dyslexic.
that's tough.
There could be that too, but I mean, he and I'm not trying to hate on the guy, and I'm just saying it may be like he doesn't pick up on social cues, but I think he picks up on social cues from what I've observed without knowing him. I see it on TV and interviews that he's done outside of TV, but he seems to be more like he clearly like checks the box from behaviors I've seen. For ADHD, it's like, yeah, I get that, but
I've
autistic less. So I would say like she was bullying him, but it's more he may have not picked that up for social cues, but more like the ADHD
no,
was probably more
I
in part.
I have ADHD.
Well, why would you like?
I have
Yeah,
ADHD, and people are like, they're really shitty to you. Why do you care? I'm like, oh, I didn't notice. Like, you do sometimes, but other times you don't. Like, I'm medicated for it now, so I have a better grasp of things. But yeah,
he may not have picked up on social cues not because he's autistic, but just because he's distracted. Like, and I'm not being flippant there. Like, he could have just been distracted. Like and that I do still like think that people who rate him as basic, or Dave Meltzer, like if you lifted Dave Meltzer, he's the greatest wrestler of all time, and I disagree with that strongly. I think Dave Meltzer overrates the quality of his work. Not that he's a bad worker though; he's a great worker. But there are issues that I have with him about like, oh, you're selling or your psychology, whatever like that, and it's like, well, if you actually take that he's ADHD, it's like some of this like no selling or some of the lack of psychology actually makes sense, because as high functioning as you have to be able to do the things that he does and tell a story in a wrestling ring, it's like if you actually have ADHD, and I do believe he does, but you would have to, that can kind of explain some of what I feel like the deficiencies are. It's like, oh, you forgot to sell the leg there. It's like he may have actually forgotten to sell the leg. Like,
so
he may have been like completely distracted, like zoned out. It's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to sell that leg.
So fun story. Like I had at the time I got medicated for it. I had like a diagnostic job where I was fixing like computer issues in a really old system. And when I got medicated for it, it actually made me worse at my job because I couldn't decipher 5 different solutions out in my head at the same time. I could only do one because I didn't have the ADHD brain anymore. So it actually made me worse at my job for a while until I like readjusted. Cause I was like,
well, that is why it's called neurodivergent, because you kind of think, you might think differently.
Yeah.
And that has downsides and upsides, obviously. It can make you hyper focus and actually find solutions. It could also like incredibly limit your social life or whatever, but it depends. It's a lot of times, again, dealing with people who have been that way, it's oftentimes contextual and person by person. So
I learned to disassociate because of school. Like, this is really off topic, but so I remember there was a point, I think it was like 2nd or 3rd grade, I told myself I had to pay attention in school. So I could, like, my grades would be okay. So I, like, my coping mechanisms, I kind of learned to disassociate and have my wacky side brain stuff as long as I was paying attention to what I needed to pay attention to. So, like, I always had, like, a weird, like, disassociation thing I learned how to do. But,
it just confuses the hell out of me. Why are you going to pick a fight with one of the favored stars in the company? Why would you do
herself.
that? Well, okay, then that just accentuates why she is a giant problem. She's a huge problem. Of course she is. But, you know, if she's going to try and mean girl on everybody because she feels like she should still be at the top of the division, and the division has long since passed her by.
I think
Then
that this is not a defense of her. I'm more giving context to what I think was kind of going on there. And Shad's touching on it. She was out for like almost a year. It was a really bad injury. Like, I don't know. Shad would probably know this better because he did miss time. Like, she's coming back. Like, I'm sure everything fucking hurts when you're coming back from an injury. Like,
it does.
She's feeling really vulnerable because she's gone. Like, the division's got all these new people in. Like, she doesn't know where she's gonna be. Like, she's looking at all these like women like Mercedes and probably being like, oh fuck, like, I'm just not like at that level. So like, it doesn't excuse it, but I think she was like feeling. I'm imagining there was a degree of lashing out because she was feeling very like vulnerable.
But still,
I mean, you shouldn't do it. That's
not good work. That's not professional workplace behavior.
But it's more context of what I think was like going through her head at the time. Like, I don't condone it, but I think it does. I think it's like the Chris Rock bit. Like, I wouldn't do it, but I understand. It's one of those things, like, honestly, she probably should have, like, someone in her life should have been like, hey, you should, like, maybe go see a therapist or get on, like, some, like, anxiety, like, medicine or something.
Yeah, anyway.
But I mean, I'm not excusing it because, like, I've always said, like, with that stuff, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Yeah. That's the last podcast line is it's not your fault that you had it. It's not your fault that you have it, but it's your responsibility to manage it.
So it's not her fault she felt that way, but like the way she reacted to that is
yeah. So anyway, the main topic for tonight, what we're gonna do for that, Brad?
Okay, so we did this. I think it's like this is probably like one of the first 5 episodes we ever did. So this has been like way long time ago. We did a Create a Wrestler show. Might have been the first 10 episodes. It was really early in the show's lifespan, I think.
I looked it up. It was one of the very first episodes.
Wow.
And, well, within the first year of us doing the show.
Okay.
And for people who
6 years
aren't aware, we've been doing this show a long time.
Yeah. We are in year 6.
Yes.
It's about to be year 7 in another.
I know.
But so we're doing this again, but we're doing it with the idea of like a tag team. So essentially we're just kind of building our ideal tag team. There won't be like real wrestlers, but it's going to be kind of a discussion of like probably gimmick, how the wrestlers would work together, like what you're trying to touch on, that sort of thing.
Yeah. All right. So who do we want to go first on this?
I say we start with Shad since this was Shad's suggestion, so he should get to shine first with his idea.
Okay. So I may have structured it differently, but here's what I'm going to walk through my plan. So I'm going to be using the old warrior young gun dynamic for mine.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing.
So
basically,
here's what
I did the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I did I gave them the veteran's name is Rusty Chain, the new guy's name is Johnny Steele. Why? There's a motif I'm going for. I'll get to it. The idea is that Rusty is not big, he's not particularly strong, he's not particularly gifted, but he's cagey. He's smart. He's capable, right? Johnny Steele is this big, physically gifted, but very green, doofus, good guy kind of person, while Rusty is kind of in this like tweener with heel leaning spot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them together randomly. I'm going to have like a lethal lottery or something like that. Just randomly get them put together. Not because Rusty's not going to pick this, but I'm going to randomly put them together, and they are going to go like through this tournament. They're going to, even if they don't win, they're going to make it like up to the final. They're going to have a surprisingly good run together. So they have a reason to keep working with each other. So they're going to continue to have kind of middling success. The idea being that they're going to have wins, but they're also going to have losses. The losses are based on either not being on the same page, miscommunication, something like that, or it comes out of Steele's his inexperience. He does not know the right moves to make yet. But we're going to slowly start having them improve. And once they start improving, what I'm going to slowly start doing is having them incorporate stuff from each other's visuals. So, like, Johnny Steele's gear has kind of like that diamond plate steel look going for it. Rusty Chains obviously has kind of a Rusty Chain move. So you start having them doing, like, they're doing more tandem stuff. They're going to have matching gear that incorporates both of it to it. And so as we do this, they're going to be getting more and more successful, doing better, doing better. This is the time they get an actual tag finish, which I couldn't come up with a better name. I called it the Steel Breaker. I like the idea of giving the team a one-word name, so I called them Alloy. I know that doesn't exactly hit, but the concept is, we've got this way of blending the two together. The Steel Breaker is a Uranage neck breaker combo move, so it's, you can put it together. And as it goes, Rusty gets not only more tolerant, but protective of Johnny, because Rusty's been around. He knows, like, hey, they're trying to take advantage of you, or hey, this is what's going on, and warning him off. So the thing that I want to cement them as the team is an old friend of Rusty's is going to come back and try to get Rusty to bail to roll with him. And Rusty's like, man, I don't know, I got a thing going. And so his old buddy decides he starts a feud with Johnny over this, because he's like, if I take you out, then Rusty isn't going to be babysitting you anymore. And what ends up happening is we get to the blow-off match for that, and the old buddy finally hits his point. He's drug a chair in the ring, or he's going to do something to injure Johnny to put him out. And when Rusty just absolutely snaps and lays his old friend out to protect Johnny, that's going to springboard them into a full-fledged babyface team. That's going to be the start of their tag title run. Like, I want to build this to be putting these two units together, see them grow together, and then have this big emotional payoff that starts their run of success. That was a lot of words in one go.
You answered my question. I was wondering what your tag was gonna your tag finisher was gonna be.
Oh yeah, the Steel Breaker.
Yeah.
Uranage neck breaker combo. That's what I came up with.
I didn't think of a actual tag team finisher, like like the heart attack or whatever. Like, I didn't think about that. Doomsday device. Like, I didn't think about all that sort of
It's
thing.
just my wrestle brain. Sorry.
Let's do Matt's next.
So, well, before we go, Rusty Steele, and who was the other guy?
It's Johnny Steele and Rusty Chain.
Johnny Steele and Rusty Chain. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you were, this was, I mean, we did obviously the way back in the day, the creator wrestler, and I tried to not go that way, but I kind of like went back to Texas in the sense that my wife's from Texas, so I don't know. I feel like I have an affinity. Plus, I was thinking of what to do, and my wife and we didn't finish it because we have 2 small kids. So we're at that point in our lives where, because we have 2 small kids, and by 2 small kids, I mean my oldest just turned 5, our youngest is turning 2 in like less than 2 weeks, like a little over like a week and a half.
Right.
So we have 2 small kids. So like anytime we watch a movie, it's like, how long is this movie? It's 90 minutes. Like, okay, maybe we can watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's longer than like an hour, like 90 minutes, it's like, well, we can 2-part this. Like, we'll watch something. Like, so we haven't finished it, but we watched about an hour and a half of the Von Erichs movie.
Okay.
The one with Zac Efron.
Right.
Iron Claw. Which, have you guys seen that?
I have not.
No, I don't. I have not been in the mood to be horribly depressed by it. I already know the way it's gonna go.
So I know the backstory, obviously. My wife does not. She wanted to watch it because she is actually a big Zac Efron fan.
Hmm.
Um, I will say a lot of wrestling fans were like really upset that it didn't get nominated for, awards. Having seen most of it, I think we still have like 45 minutes to go. 45 minutes. Um, it's not worthy of awards. Like it's a well done film and it's not poorly acted. It's decently acted, but it's not. Like
You're
it's not
telling me
deserving of awards.
it's not cinema?
It's good. It's a good movie. And
I
my wife is even like, I'm like, the story is disturbing because and I had to tell her because watching it, I'm like, the real life story is actually like, sadly enough, it's actually way worse.
yeah,
The real
someone
life, the,
I've had more than one person that had seen it and they knew I was a wrestling fan. They're like this movie can't be that bad. Like they were I don't remember how they were like so this is a real story. I'm like yeah. I'm like they dramaed that up. That wasn't really that bad. I'm like well no actually they lightened it up a bit because they took a couple deaths out
oh
of it.
no,
Like yeah.
yeah, the actual real story is way worse than what you see in the show,
Yeah.
on the movie. And even like
There's a reason
the actor.
there was a reason we did a show and I was like, oh good, Fritz died of a probably hopefully a very painful cancer because like he is a massive piece of shit.
The actor, I don't know the actor's name. He, I think, was on Mindhunters on Netflix. He plays Fritz.
Hmm.
The version of Fritz in the movie is a fraction of how much of a just unrepentant asshole, evil person that the real Fritz was.
Right.
Like in this one, he just seems kind of like stern and misguided,
Yeah.
and kind of disturbing in the sense like when it actually shows like David Von Erich dies and they're at the house and like the other Von Erich brothers and the dad are like sitting around like on the porch like morose. Fritz goes in this whole thing. It's like, well, this is a great opportunity for us because we're gonna get that like world title match and they're gonna give us the world title. It's finally gonna come home with the family. And it's like it's kind of like disturbing because it's like you should not shouldn't you be more like messed
Yeah.
up that your son died?
Well, I remember
But
he
that
gave
said,
away fake autographs at that show too.
it doesn't reference that or anything like that.
Did they do the heart attack
Um,
angle that he did like after like he was on like the second or third death?
no, and there's some liberties there too, where it's like it shows the Dallas Sportatorium, and it's like it's supposed to be like other big matches because they actually just showed some of the matches with the Freebirds,
Mm.
And it's in front. Like again, I referenced like the indie show that I did. That I saw Virginia Championship Wrestling. It's like they present it as that, where it's like you're basically almost like the equivalent of like a high school gym, and you have like 500 people in attendance, and it's like
I have to say that's
They-
like one of my if it was still around like and it was possible that would be like a wrestling bucket list would be seeing a
a
wrestling show.
mecca. Yeah,
Yeah, would be seeing something in the sportatorium and just like sweating like a pig because there was. I think they put AC in when GWF was there though.
yeah. But point is, like back in the day, like in the 80s when they were like super popular, it's like thousands of people showed up at these shows, not just like 500 people. But anyway, my wife and I watched that, so I was like, it was on my mind to do like Texas wrestling. So um I didn't really give a name to the promotion, but I thought of like I was gonna do like an indie promotion in Texas.
Mhm.
Not world class, but think like world class. And the premise is that the promotion based in Texas, and we didn't like set up parameters like what time frame it would be. Where it would be like contemporaneous, like modern era,
Yeah, we didn't
or
really.
what it would be. I feel like my promotion, I was thinking more like an 80s or 90s type of promotion. Doesn't have to be in the Dallas Sportatorium, but think like Texas. They
Yeah.
work Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, whatever. excuse me. If it was set in the modern day, it'd be almost like a throwback. Like you try to actually ape the aesthetic of like 80s, 90s, like the gritty Texas, like roughneck vibe. So the team I did against Shad was actually like the older veteran and the younger like star. Although I wasn't thinking like it was going to be like, here's your like 40-year-old veteran,
Right.
and your 18-year-old star. Nothing like quite that big of a dichotomy, but I was thinking of a guy like who's maybe like early to mid 30s, who had been around enough that it's like you're like maybe like a 10-year veteran. So you're a veteran. And again, working with like 80s or 90s, so you probably actually worked. It's not like you're the guy that we've seen in wrestling in the last like, well, I guess maybe it's not being fair, but some people in modern wrestling, it's like maybe you do this on the weekend. So in a given year, you have like 100 matches, maybe. I'm talking about guys who like this would be their career. So this maybe 10-year veteran, but he works like 500 matches or more.
It'd be kind of like equivalent of like, let's say it's Chikara. It's not like, it would be like Chikara, and let's say you're an original colony ant, and they put a new ant in with you.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you're a worker ant that's been working for 12 years, and they give you Bullet Ant, who's like a fresh off the street rookie.
Yeah. So it'd be an older veteran, older. It's a guy in his early to mid 30s, and my idea was like the other guy would be a younger worker, and by younger I'm early 20s,
Right.
Like, and not like he started at 16 or 18, but maybe he started like 20, 21, 22, and he's maybe at this point 22, 23, 24th the oldest, maybe been around like a couple years. So he's still young, but he has a lot of promise and talent. And I did names too. My older worker is Dirty Dan Houston.
Dirty Dan Houston, I like it.
Yeah.
Man, that's got some punch to it.
And the San Antonio Kid, because I was gonna have him be from San Antonio.
That's
San
actually
Antonio
really
Kid.
good. That's a good name for a.
Yeah.
I like
the San Antonio
both of
Kid, Nicholas, aka Nico. That's his nickname. Nicolas.
Does the San Antonio Kid have a mask of any sort?
No, although I guess if I really wanted to, I could have him like wear a
You could
mask
give
and
him.
ring and then
You could
take
give
it
him
off.
like the You could have him do like the Lone Ranger mask, and like give him like a cowboy
Maybe.
hat to come out to.
I could. He wasn't. I didn't envision him as having a mask that he wore like in the ring like a lucha star, but he could. I guess he could. I mean, we've seen in Stardom, Joshi wrestlers like would sometimes wear like the mask or like a not like Starlight Kid, but kind of like a tiger mask, and then it's like they take it off. Whatever.
Well, I was
but,
thinking like you could give him like the Lone Ranger one where it just covers his eyes. It's not like a full face mask. It's like an eye
the
mask.
tuxedo mask.
Yeah, the
call it,
tuxedo mask. Yeah.
You can give him a. You could have him like how Andrade comes out with the black mask on and then takes it off before the match too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dirty Dan Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And the San Antonio Kid, Nicolas, aka Nico Trevino, because Nico is supposed to be Dirty Dan Houston is not, but Nico is supposed to be of Latino heritage, Hispanic heritage. I don't care if it's full-blooded, half-blooded, but I envision him, Nico, to be young, early 20s, kind of say slider build, but more like lean physique, but decent height, like 6 foot to 6'2". And I'm thinking more because I think he actually gets unfair hatred because he can kind of be excessive and he has been annoying. But I think of like a Sammy Guevara type,
Sure,
where a guy who's a good worker, can be a high flyer, a better technical wrestler than you probably think so, but I'm envisioning Nico to be a guy who can do technical stuff, so he can be a good technical wrestler, but also high flying enough. He can do like the flashy moves. He can do like flips and stuff like that that'll wow the crowd. Not exactly lucha though.
Right.
He's not lucha stuff. It's a little more grounded and not
Could he
as
be like
flashy.
a
But
could he be like a Darby type that maybe has an amateur background that like informs his technical stuff, but he does the
absolutely,
crazy
that
stuff
would actually,
because
yeah. And Dan Houston though, I'm envisioning as he's older again, 30 to 35, but he's the Haas type. Big,
Okay.
like big, about and tall, not like I'm 7 foot tall, but big, like 6'4", 6'5",
Mm-hmm.
and burly. Like big, tall, Haas type worker.
so he's like is he
A
like
little older.
the Viking house party type, probably a big beard, not like WWE like ripped, but like just that big boy that's maybe got a bit of a gut to him, but he's just a big
Yes, exactly. Kind of big, like broad, like and well muscled, but maybe a little bit of a gut. That belly's like, I bet it's a little bit wide, like
little bit big, Daddy.
little bit big. But not sloppy, Like he has some like thickness
Trevor
to him
Murdoch
that,
kind of.
yeah. So it's like he's got like he's big and broad and like a little bit of like some pudge. But he's guy, it's like if you felt like real life, if you like, let me poke you. He's not the Pillsbury Doughboy. It's like you poke and it's like maybe your finger sinks in like a little bit, but it's like, oh shit, there's like some actual like firmness to this. It's like you're actually like a tough dude. And I envision him visually. He's wearing like he's got like the basic like black trunks. Maybe he'll change it up to like blue or red sometimes, whatever. But basic trunks. But he's also got like the tape fist, and he's got like the cowboy boots. Because he's Texas, right? You got
Right.
cowboy boots.
Makes sense.
And he's got a long, like thick mustache, kind of like what Hangman Adam Page is rocking right now.
Yeah.
And he's got like kind of long, stringy, like blondish hair. Not like gross and unkempt, but like he's got kind of like the late 80s, early 90s, like Barry Windham, like
He's got some pack hair going on.
yeah, like well, maybe not as moist and long as back. But there you go. And my premise is this. So I didn't work like all like the whole storyline of them, but I did a backstory. So my premise is this. So you have Dan Houston and Nico, and they're not rivals.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of are put in a match with each other because Dan Houston starts as a heel. He's a heel, and he's like mid to upper mid card. Big Haas type roughhouse. Nico's like the young talent, and they put them in a series of matches together. Dan Houston is the established vet, but in their first match together, Nico beats him with a flash bit, like a small package, something roll up.
Okay.
And I'm envisioning kind of almost like a Razor Ramon 1, 2, 3 kid situation, where it's like
Okay.
Dan Houston's like incensed. It's like, I can't believe this like young kid like beat me, the established veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and he's pissed off, and so he's angry, he wants revenge. So they have a series of matches with each other, and because you're trying to get both these guys over, you want to have Dan Houston as an established like big roughneck talent. So he dominates a lot of the matches with the San Antonio Kid, Nicholas Trevino. But then Nico always finds a way to, if he doesn't win, then he at least like outmaneuvers Dan. So he like maybe he'll win by like a count out victory,
Mm-hmm.
or he will do something where it's like he escapes Dan, like just demolishing him, even though throughout the match like he'll beat him down.
You could do the Yamashita Maki Ito for one of their finishes where he like finally gets his respect, where like if you haven't seen it, like there's this match where Yamashita like head kicks Maki Ito, and she like fights her way to feet and like flips her the double bird, and then like Maki Ito just, I mean, and then Yamashita just like kicks her head off, but she's so impressed by the absolute gall that she showed that, like, that she became her friend afterwards.
Well, that's where this is leading to, because they have this series of matches with each other, and Nico always finds a way to either beat Dan Houston, not by like, I'm beating you. The first match was a win by like a flash pin.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he'll beat Dan Houston because it's like he'll win by count out, because they'll be fighting on the outside, and then like he'll roll in really quickly and Dan Houston gets counted out. He's like Dan Houston again, like building like, I can't believe this. I can't beat this kid. Or like Dan Houston will snap and it's like he tried to beat the kid. The ref is like not pushing him back, and Dan Houston will just like snap and be like, punch the ref. And did get to you. It like a bunch of like, false finishes, like nonsense. So it all leads to a gimmick match. And I'm thinking like cage match.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trapped in with each other. And Dan Houston's like, I trapped this kid. This kid can't beat me. I'm gonna demolish him. And they have a really good back and forth cage match. And then the finish is actually the kid actually overcoming the big Haas heel and winning.
Okay.
And it gets the kid over. Go ahead.
Can I throw a suggestion at you for your gimmick match? This is
Sure.
Texas. How about a chain match for their big gimmick match?
So they can't get away from each other?
Yeah, and it puts Dan at a massive advantage because they're connected. He can't fly as much. It gives him a chance to really like beat him up with the chain and stuff. Like, and it would probably be something I imagine like people have seen like Dan in a bunch of those, because that might be a specialty.
I could see. Okay, we could work with that. Maybe it's they even get a little bloody.
Yeah.
A little bit of blood. But the finish of that match is that the San Antonio kid, Nico Trevino, wins the match. And Dan Houston gets up from that match, even if he's bloody, and he looks at the kid who just beat him, and he's like shocked, but then he looks at him and you think like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is he going to like take the chain and like demolish this kid for winning? And instead he just begrudgingly goes like, and he holds out his hand, because this kid has earned his respect, and they shake hands. But that's not the forming of the team. That's just like they've earned respect.
Okay.
So then we fast forward, like maybe not too long, a week, maybe no more than a month. And the promotion that they're in, Texas-based promotion, they're going to have a big battle royal. Let's say it's a Royal Rumble type of battle royal, or a casino type of battle royal, where guys come in every couple minutes. Dan Houston's in the match. And he starts off earlier in the match, but he's like fighting with guys, but like that. He's an early participant. He's doing well. He's acting not as a heel, almost like a tweener, because he's like battling both heels and faces. Like just it's the classic like Royal Rumble type, everyone mad for himself, like fighting each other. So the premise I have is that he's fighting, and then there is another tag. There's actually an established heel tag team, and I even created a name for them. It's I call them the Crows Forever. They're working a motorcycle gang biker.
Oh, okay.
And think of them, because they're on my mind too, because we've just been reviewing in the latter half of 2024. Think of them almost like a Moondogs type of tag team, where they're just big, burly, like badasses just going out there. Usually they go out there and they just beat the hell out of people in tag matches, demolishing jobbers or whatever like that. And they're one of your main tag heels, not the tag champs necessarily, but they're like one of your main tag teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they're heels, they get booked well, whatever like that. So he's in the match with Battle Royale, and all of a sudden those dudes just start pounding on him. So then all of a sudden Nico is like one of the next participants. He comes into the match, and he starts off House of Fire, fiery baby face. He's like fighting on dudes. Like a couple minutes, he's just like, hitting people, whatever like that. Meanwhile, Dan Houston's getting like beaten up by the Crows Forever, this bicycle gang, like beating the shit out of him. Eventually, Nico sees this, and he starts attacking the Crows and actually helping out Dan Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And let me try to read my notes to see how I actually booked this this battle royal.
Okay.
So they actually kind of team up in the context of the battle royal, and they're fighting each other, like they're fighting the Crows, whatever like that. And they even work so well in this that they eliminate. It's one of the tropes you see with battle royals where it's like they actually eliminate together the Crows. They throw them over the top rope.
Right.
And Nico is super excited. It's like, yeah, we did it. Like, we look at this. Like, we like beat those, like, this tag team. We did it. And then he is like really excited, and Dan Houston is like conflicted. He's like, you and I used to be like real big rivals, but it's like, oh, yeah, kind of worked well together there. So
Yeah.
Nico, the battle royal continues, but the Crows are pissed off, and they're kind of like milling about. They're like arguing with the second ref on the outside, whatever like that. Now Nico he makes a mistake in the battle royal. He gets eliminated by another competitor, and the Crows are pissed off, and they got eliminated in part by this guy. So they start beating on him outside the ring. Dan Houston sees this, gets distracted by this, and getting distracted, another competitor throws him over the ropes. So he's eliminated too. And now all four men are outside the ring. And Dan Houston is like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to help this kid. And they just start brawling with each other. They brawl and brawl. They fight to the back. And that cuts to the next week later, whatever, like soon. Dan Houston has like a promo in the ring, and he calls out Nico, and he says, look, you and I have feuded. You and I have not seen eye to eye, but I respect you. And you know what? These Crows, like, they pulled some fast one on us in that battle royal. Like, either one of us should have won this battle royal. Like, they were eliminated. We eliminated them, and they started beating down on you, and they beat on me. Like, we need to take it to them. Let's have a match. So then it leads to a series of tag matches where these two former rivals start teaming with each other in the series with the Crows. And the matches are usually like, early on, like it's just mayhem, because again, the Crows are supposed to be like kind of reminiscent of the Moondogs, so it's like usually ends with like a DQ finish or something, and all that leads to a big gimmick match, which I'm thinking it's Texas. You need to have like a bunkhouse stampede match.
Ooh, get a bunkhouse
I
brawl.
was gonna say you could do. You could also do. It's a fancy hardcore match. You could do like a Texas brass knuckles match where you just tape their fists up and it's just a falls count anywhere match.
Maybe, but I want it to be like a wild brawl around the arena, that could work. And I want them to have like, the tape fists.
Yeah,
but I also want them to do the classic.
That's what you do like for the brass knuckles. You tape their fists up and it's just they just brawl all over the place.
I want it to also be a true bunkhouse in that, they're wearing jeans with like cowboy boots and the elbow pads over the jeans. And it's just a wild, bloody brawl. That's the blow-off gimmick match. And you actually see that Dan Houston and Nico, this like makeshift tag team that and they win. They beat the Crows. And Dan Houston cuts a promo. And he says, you know what? Like, you and I have battled, but we fought these guys, and we were actually really damn good as a tag team. Maybe we should actually try this out as a real tag team. And so this is where the tag team gets born, and the name I created for them is the Lone Star Outlaws, the LSO.
That's a good team.
I like it.
And from there, like, I don't have much more to talk about because I didn't book like too much further, but and thinking like they then form the official tag team. And this is really like Dan Houston, because he started off as like heel. This is him like transitioning to a face. So they're now like a face tag team. And it is the oddball tag team of the veteran and the younger guy, but it's also like differences because you have like the big hoss, like roughneck.
Yeah.
Almost like a cowboy type of gimmick. And the young guy who's not a luchador, but he's like the young, like good looking baby face, like Tectico. And I'm thinking, even not to get to like sports entertainment, but even like they do segments, which back in the day, I mean, now like stuff gets like so like contrived or silly, but you would see this sort of stuff like in the 80s and the 90s, and you would like love it. It would like get guys so over. I'm thinking you do like segments, promo segments, like backstage stuff or whatever, where you see them like being like, all right, we're forming a tag team, like let's become friends and like get to know each other. And you see each guy like getting the other guy into the things that they're into. And by that I mean Dan Houston's like, all right, man, like you're like a young kid, like you're gonna become like a real cowboy. And you see him do like stuff that's like, all right, let's go down to like my ranch. And you see like him taking him down to the ranch, and he's like forcing Nico to be like, all right, you gotta wrestle this like bull. And you see like the kid do it, and he gets like thrown ever like that. But you see him by the end of it, you see him like he's doing it. And Dan Houston's like, yeah, that's right. And conversely, Dan Houston, who's like the big kind of like not ugly, but kind of ugly, like big burly, like whatever like that. Nico's like, yo man, you got to get with the ladies. And it's like, let me take you down to like the dance hall. And like you see like Danny, he's like, no, you got to dress differently. He like dresses Dan in like an outfit. And you see Dan, he's like so unsure. He's like, oh, what is this nonsense? And you see him, and then at the end of it, you see all these ladies like,
Ooh,
you know, like,
Dan.
oh, Dan.
And
Dan's
yeah,
like,
wait, and you just,
okay, yeah.
I love
The
this
point
Matt, because then you could pan over, and there's Nico over at the bar, and he goes, and just
Yeah,
yeah. You could
The point
do
is,
like
this
um,
goofy.
you could do like
Yeah.
the. Have you seen like the Blue Blood segments where like Regal's teaching Bobby Eaton like blue bloodery, and he takes him to that fancy restaurant, and they sit down. The restaurant's like, "Would you like me to have this man thrown out?" And then he gives him, and he starts like cleaning his ear out with like the napkin and stuff, and just eating like a savage. Like you could do some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you could have him sit down, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" Like, that's a salad fork.
Yeah.
And him just be
So-
perplexed.
My point of this is that obviously the segments are meant to be like they're getting to know each other, to become like actual friends. But it's also one of the things I love about many things, wrestling, media in general. I love when you subvert tropes. And the trope here is like each guy is getting presented into like an environment that they are not comfortable with, and it's bizarre. But they actually have some measure of success doing it in environments that they're completely alien to them or weird. And in doing so, they're not presented as incompetent. It's like, well, I'm so out of my element, but I'm going to make it work. And they do make it work. And at the same time, they're like bonding. So it's like, you and I are very different, but I'm going to try to go into your world. You're going to try to go in mine. And they do, and they achieve some measure of success. So by the end, it's like, we're different, but we're cool. Like, and they can't shake. It's like, yeah. And so then,
I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead. No. Please go.
Like, this basically sets like the dynamic for the tag team, where it's like they become like good friends. They were bitter rivals, and they became like good friends. And now it also kind of sets up the differences between the teams, so they both bring something to the table. Where it's like you have the young, like high flying, but also energetic, like technical worker in Nico, and you have Dan being like the big Haas type, power type. Not that it's like a Heart Foundation type where it's like Brett, where Nico's not supposed to be like as good as Brett. But Dan's also supposed to be a little more well-rounded than Neidhart was. But that's the same type of thing where it's like you have Brett, who's the smaller, quicker, technical worker, and Anvil, who was the big powerhouse of the team. But kind of a little bit like that, where it's like you have the strong dude and the quick, like technical dude working with each other. And the last part of that, I know you had a thought, Chad, but the last part, I didn't book too far, but my idea was, now that you have the team, and this is probably like a year into, like at least a year, to the point where they started like feuding to like now they're a team. They would have matches as an actual tag team with other other tag teams in the promotion, all leading to them eventually feuding with the tag champs and winning the tag title, into them being a team, depending upon how over they got with the crowd.
Yeah.
But let's say within like the 6 months, because I mean, in real life, like people now have dogged on them, but back in the day, like in AEW, like the Acclaim got super over. It's like they put tag titles on it. It's like, of course you do. Like,
Yeah.
super over. So depending on how over they got with the crowd, it's like that's where you're leading to. But that's my tag team. What were we gonna say, Shad?
Your description had me thinking of Sammy Guevara teaming with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and then I was like, what would their finish be? I was like, Dr. Bomb into a frog splash. There you go.
I was thinking Kenny Omega and Adam Page would be like a good kind of archetype of the odd couple.
Maybe, although obviously I'm thinking like
there's a bigger disparity in experience.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Dan Houston would be a bigger. He probably would be more a little bit not on the level of Steve Williams, but more in like the Steve Williams type than Hangman Page, who is smaller and more well rounded. But yeah.
So Brad, what about yours?
So I went a little more comedy with this, and I didn't have like the amount of notes, but I took like, it'd be kind of like an upper mid card guy that got in trouble with management, and they're punishing him, so they're pairing him up with just a loser.
I love it.
So he has to team with them. He can't he has to try. Like that's kind of the idea. He has to try to get out of the doghouse. So a lot of the matches, and this guy's just incompetent. It's not like a jobber. It's just a guy that sucks. And that's his gimmick. This is more like a Japanese kind of thing. So a lot of the matches are going to be, they're teaming up, and that guy's in, and he's just getting his ass like fucking beat. And he's just totally terrible. So you're going to get a lot of him like tell the guy like, no, hit him. Like hit him again. And just the guy getting fucking wrecked the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then him getting frustrated with it. They win here and there when he gets in. But then over time, he kind of develops a fondness for him. His partner never gets any better, but it would just be an undercard like team that lost most of it. And it would just be more comedy stuff.
Okay. That sounds really funny.
Because it'd be like, maybe he's chopping him and he's like, the guy's just not reacting. He looks back and he just be like, no, keep hitting him.
Yeah. He does. He winds up, does a big chop, and then the guy, he turns and looks at his partner and he goes, do it again.
Yeah. It'd be like, kind of like, have you heard like the Domino story where he talks about wrestling like the great Power Udi?
Oh no.
So they're doing this
sure.
and oh fuck, what's his name? He's in the club. Oh, not Carl Anderson, the other guy. I can't think of his name right now.
Luke Gallows.
Luke Gallows is there
Gallows.
who talked Domino into taking the thing, and he's just like, and like Udi wasn't selling. He's like, well, what do I do? And Luke Gallows is just like, punch him in the balls. Like it'd kind of be like that. And he'd just be like, well, I don't know what to do. He's like, just hit him again.
Yeah.
And then like he might come off the ropes and do like a shoulder tackle, and he's like, no, like come on, just do it again. Like you'll get him this time. And then he just gets like, big boot in the face, and he's like, oh, almost got him.
As an aside, they're still like signed to WWE, and as far as I know, like just collecting a paycheck to not.
Oh,
just
they know their scam. They know their scam real well.
They like respect to them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anyone in the modern era has got more money for doing less than those two, like Gallows and Anderson. Like I think they're with the WWE, and God only knows how much money they're making.
Oh, I mean,
at least 6 figures.
I hope.
And I don't know. I haven't seen them on WWE programming. Like who knows?
I think.
We are going to see them.
I mean, Jade actually does work like a minute here and there, but she's also probably taking them the cleaners for like very little work. Which I mean, hats off to her.
That's a whole other story. Like there are people who argue like she has to be disappointed, and it's like
no, I
she
would
probably is outside of the paycheck, like she probably is. Like,
because I think they promised her like inroads to Hollywood and stuff, And I think as soon as she signed that contract, they just lost interest because they just wanted a W. So
Yeah,
I think she kind of got fucked on that. And I mean, I don't. So I never disagreed with her logic for going there because I kind of agreed with the idea that they could they're but much, and it's I mean I don't even think this is like a big revelation, but they are better at PR and like pushing people into the mainstream. And I think for what her aspirations were, it did make sense to go to the WWE, but they sold her a bill of goods and like totally lost interest. And I think if she had stayed at AEW, like they don't have that same ability still, but they are much closer to Warner Brothers. So I think she could have
Yeah.
backdoored in that way. Whereas I think WWE kind of fucked her over on that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the unfortunate joke on her part is that she did do that because under the auspices of like because she for people who don't know like Jade Cargill doesn't long term like she just want to make a career out of wrestling.
No, and
Like,
she's
she
married.
wants to-
She's married to Brandon Phillips, who played baseball for like 15 years and made a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, they're independently wealthy
Like
beyond
probably
wrestling. Before they even got into wrestling. Before
probably
she even
more
got
than $100 million, like that they have between them.
Yeah, so she wants to actually get involved with Hollywood or make those inroads, and it's like the joke is that she signed with WWE, and since then, even taking out someone like Mercedes Moné, who kind of had a foot in, or at least a toe in Hollywood before she came to AEW, guys like Samoa Joe and MJF both, and even like if you actually want to consider Britt Baker, have actually had movie roles in different properties since then. So it's like maybe you should have actually. Tony Khan was actually willing to give you more money to stay with you, and you left it because you like, oh, I'll go with WWE. Like they'll promote me to the mainstream, and I'll get Hollywood offers, whatever like that. It's like
Which wasn't
maybe you actually stayed with AEW because you probably would have been at least a WBD property by now.
but
Like
she
Samoa Joe.
but her logic made sense. But the
No,
problem
her logic made sense.
the problem with I think where she missed it though, and it's this isn't like a revelation, but they play favorites with who they help get into mainstream roles.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
I think they sold her a bill of goods about how they'd get her in here and there, and I think she left right before the relationship with WB kind of budded a little more for that. So bad timing, miscalculation.
I wanted to say, first of all, Brad, I think that your gimmick would be really funny. It gives some folks something to do without having to have huge expectations off of it, but it could also make it a springboard into something else. Matt, I really dug your storyline of making the Fireforged respect rivals into friends. Like, I you laid out a specific pathway to get there that makes sense. I really like it, and I appreciate it. It's not the these two guys can't get along, but it's the like no. I know what you got in you. I respect what you are. Like we could do that. I like that. I like that dynamic you put together. That's and the Lone Star Outlaws. I dig that name too. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I kind
trying to
of
think. Remember, like you got to think what Brad said. It's like, is your T-shirt going to be like, is it like a heavy metal band or a cult? Like I don't know. Like I know you could do like LSO. Like
yeah, get a big Lone Star in the O across the shoulders.
you could rip off Iron Maiden for some of them. I was toying around. I didn't figure out how to make it different enough, but I did take some inspirations. But head cheese was a bit of my inspiration.
Okay, I follow that.
But head cheese eventually learned to get along after they murdered poor Chester Cheeserton.
Yeah. I had the idea for the logo once I put the two of them together. Because I know Alloy wasn't a great name, but where it's just one word, is you do the word in the plate steel, but then you do a border around it with the rusty chain, so you have both of their visual motifs tied into the team presentation that way.
I thought your names were both pretty good because I hate when they do like really lazy tag names.
I wanted something better than Alloy, and I could not. I could not find it. It's just lost.
I was in this Discord and we were just fucking around, like just being obnoxious, and we were using real tag team names, but we were like just being like idiots about it, and we were just like doing the most like absurd names, like just mocking like uncreative names, like we were doing like the New Age Outlaws 2000, and just like just throwing on like stupid uncreative things they do. There was some really good ones because we went like really stupid with it, like a
Super D-duper new Blackjack 2000 experience.
yeah, we did. I think we did like the new like Rock and Roll Express, like, or what was it? It was something like that. The new Rock and Roll Express like 2000, or like the new Rock and Roll Express like 2000, or the next, or I don't know. It was all those tropes from like the 90s, like how they just like threw 2000 on the end, or
The new Rockers Roll Express 2000.
yeah. No, I think it was the new Midnight Rock and Roll Express 2000 or something was one we had. What was it just popped in my head. Was it Bodacious Bob, or when they did
Bodacious Bob and Bombastic Bart.
Oh god. That was so bad.
I do not know why that is stuck in my head, but there it sits,
Especially
like a dirty sock on a shower rod.
I think they did one thing at Mania, like they did a battle royal or something, but I don't think they were ever on TV more than like a couple times.
They were part of that new NWA thing that basically just served to be name jobbers.
Yeah. What a waste. And the Rock and Roll Express would come out to the Rockers music. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is it for this week. So we are going to get back to the USWA at some point. There's been a lot going on for the three of us, so watching stuff has not been like in the cards recently, but we will probably get to that. I don't know if next week, but probably we'll get to a couple of weeks of that in February. I do want to do a TJPW show this year because Wrestle Universe has a free week, so Shad can watch a show without any financial commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And Wrestle Universe does have an app versus like a lot of other services.
All right.
There is I think they actually we're going to be posting a show on YouTube even for free.
Ooh, we could check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Because they've been doing some Stardom ones on YouTube, but like it's just the timing's been bad for us to like review a full Stardom show. And I think Shad would get more out of a full TJPW show. But
that's actually that's actually what I was thinking, that they actually are posting a full show on TJWP on YouTube.
How are you doing on the
I think it's for like their Princess tag.
Okay. How are you doing on the
but I'm not sure
1-3 show?
I need to still finish it. I'm like halfway through. And I think there's been like 3 or 4 shows since then. So I think actually
4. I'm a couple behind.
So Brad is trying to watch all Tokyo Joshi Pro wrestling shows for 2025, and I actually silently am trying to do that too. But I'm like, nah, I'm not doing the first show of the year. But that's partly because I'll try to watch a match, and they're not even like long matches, but I try to watch a match, and like I watch it. Let me start watching this at like 12:30 at night, 1 a.m. and it's like, no, I'm gonna pass out. But yeah,
I think the 1-3 show is pretty fun. I know you had said I agreed with you. The lumber snake death match went a little long.
It was Hyper Masao versus
Shoko Nakajima,
and it was fun, but it was also like this, between that and the after match antics, it's like this didn't need to be like 20 minutes.
So Shad, what happens is this 1-3 show, every year they have some like absurd gimmick match. Like there was one year they just brought like a bunch of like rubber toys out and were like using them as weapons and like spots and stuff. And sometimes they have like a gimmick. Like I think I think that year Shoko lost and had to change her name to whatever Hyper wanted and made her dress up like a superhero and was her sidekick for like a month.
Okay.
But it's like a yearly tradition, and the match is like dumb every year.
Okay.
And so what happened this year is they're gonna have their match. There wasn't like a stated gimmick, and then Poison Sawada, who's a DDT worker, who's like a comedy worker, gave Shoko and several of the other girls a potion that turned them into snakes. So then they all came out to like his music and were snakes. And then Hyper Misao's kind of like a superhero too. So she has like her vehicle that's just a bike that's like dolled up a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, pimped out a bit.
Yeah. And Hyper Misao is of what's the best way? Of dubious moral standing at times.
Okay.
She can be a little bit heelish when she wants to. She kind of just I'd say she's a little more heelish than she is face-ish. I don't know if Matt would agree with that.
I feel she's more face-ish than heelish. She's just kind of like, like loose morals is probably the better way to put it. Like, it's not even like she's a heel. It's more like just like
She's
she's a
morally
face that
gray.
doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't care. In real life, Hyper Misao is kind of a pro wrestling success story in the sense that the real life Hyper Misao at one point like tried to kill herself. Like she and then wrestling saved her life. Like she got into wrestling and like she has become a success in Tokyo Joshi Pro, and she's like beloved. Like a lot of people love her and her character.
Yeah.
And she's actually quite fun. So she's fun to, but
Very memorable.
really, you should try to get.
too.
Yeah, we should try to really get Chad into Tokyo Joshi Pro because it's the work is actually pretty good, but there is a lot of like it's between Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro. It's the more
It's
sports entertainment
yeah.
aspect of it because there's a lot of like character work and some of the matches on the undercards are not best matches.
Well, they
but
have
there's just a lot of
students
fun.
on the undercard.
Yeah, but it's and by and large it is fun, and you have you have Joshi workers who they take wrestling seriously, but it's also like it's very lighthearted.
And
it's
you have
very fun.
you have Reiku, whose gimmick is she brings a pillow to the ring and falls asleep during the match, and then she'll hit
Yes.
people with the pillow and stuff. And Aja Kong like loves her. Like Aja
Yeah.
Kong is mean to everyone but Reiku.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
to remember though. You have to remember that Reiku in canon is God or a god. We're not quite sure which, but she is a god of some
Oh,
sort, or the god, the god of gods.
I think you would like I think you would like Miyamoto because she's
her primary power, she can make people fall asleep.
I think well then there's I can't remember the name. Like there's Kiru, and she's like what she is she's pretty much like a normal human being, and she's really awkward, and she doesn't quite understand like the antisocial, violent nature of wrestling. So she'll like come
Yes.
into like a battle royal and just stand around awkwardly because she won't just take like a lockup with someone or attack them. She like
Yeah.
wants to politely like start
Yes.
like their conflict, and then there's like
She doesn't quite understand. It's like, why are people being so mean to one another? And it's
Yeah.
like because wrestling, everyone's antisocial.
And I think
Like,
you'd like
just
Miyamoto
embrace.
because I think she comes from like a karate background, but her gimmick's like karate, so she incorporates
Martial
it. Yeah, she incorporates it into her moveset, so she does like a lot of like kind of martial arts throws, and like does a lot of kicks and stuff. Like I think you'd like her, and like Yuka's like she's not a magical girl because she's got a darker side to her. I don't remember what she is though.
Okay.
And dear.
Yeah.
She Yuka is like the cutest, like bubbly, whatever, but who also like kind of cute, like bubbly Japanese girl who also at the drop of a hat will cover your face and smother you almost to death. And then when like the ref like stops her, she'll be like, and then Smile is like, ah, and it's like, Jesus, or you almost like kill us for it.
And like
And it's like, ah,
they did,
it's like, okay.
and they did like a gauntlet match, and like the winners got an expensive box of meat.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
heard you talking about that one.
and
I
that
think
one was cool because what they did is
like won that.
no Miyazaki, oh crap, what's her name? Mizuki or what? I can't think.
Oh,
of it.
Mizuki won.
But
Yeah.
the thing that was cool about it, Shad, that I don't know how you feel as a worker. So like, it was like a gauntlet match where the teams would come out, but like, so they would go for 5 minutes, and it was 2 falls. But then if it went into overtime, if it was a draw, it became 1 fall, which really worked to let people get upset without losing anything.
Okay.
Because they could get snuck up on with a singular fall.
Okay.
It was an interesting little kind of wrinkle to it. But I think you would like it because it's a little goofier.
There's a place for that.
Tokyo Joshi Pro is a fun promotion because it's very lighthearted, and the top of the card actually has like really good, serious wrestling matches. And the production values generally are pretty good because it's owned by Cyberfight, who owns Pro Wrestling Noah.
It's
and
a
Pro
TV
Wrestling Noah
network.
has had, Pro Wrestling Noah has had its ups and downs, especially over the last few years. But a lot of times, the Pro Wrestling Noah, like their production for the big shows is stunningly good. Like you're watching AEW or WWE. WWE, maybe that's not the best example because WWE, in my opinion, can get overly like stylized and too much emphasis on production. But
Yeah.
they obviously put a lot of production values into it, so it's actually quite good. So it's worth your time just because it can oftentimes be good production values, or at least like it's the lower card is fun and dare I say it, even almost like whimsical.
Yeah.
And the top of the card is actually really good wrestling. So
and that's the promotion where the one girl with the head kicks, you've seen gifs of, works. Makito works there, and the other one, Mayu, the one that I've sent gifts to you guys of like just doing the ridiculously strong things, like big swinging
Mia Watanabe.
Yeah, like big swinging 2 girls at the same time, like stuff like that.
Oh, she's someone who I'm sure, like, her actual height and weight, she's probably like 5.5 feet, and like, she's a slight girl, but she is ridiculously strong.
When you watch the end of this, she's you can tell she's been hitting the gym because she's definitely bulked up a little bit. Like she's got like. She hasn't like added like a bunch of dumb muscle, but you can tell like she's got that extra level of definition. You can tell like she's kind of taken being like the champion more and like kind of upped her. You can. I don't know if there's been a lot like you can tell like America's a bad example, but she's someone they put the belt on and she took that step with the belt like as they put it on her, both in like her presentation, like her aura. And then you can tell, like, outside the ring, she put in, like, more work in the gym to, like, really kind of tone up and stuff. Like, so she's someone that's really taken a step in the last year.
Okay.
But I think that is it for this week. Like I said, we'll be back with something. USWA is on the horizon again. Because we're kind of getting out of the awkward season for us.
Yeah.
So,
Trying to get out of the doldrums.
Yep. So thank you for joining us as always. And we've been in 3 corners and you've been in the 4th. And we will catch you.